Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. What if Naruto had Delia Ketchum as his mother? Naruto Ketchum. Movie. In the small town called Palette we see a 16-year-old boy by the name of Naruto, asleep on a bed. He was tossing and turning due to the sun peeking through the blinds, making him grumble, before he woke up. "Damn you son," Naruto said while blinking his eyes, to get the sleepiness out. After waking up somewhat, Naruto got up and started to stretch his athletic body. After grabbing some clothes, he walked into his bathroom and took a hot relaxing shower. After 40 minutes he walked out in the clothes he would be wearing constantly on his journey. Naruto stood at a height of 6 feet 1 inch, spiky blonde hair, with 2 bangs framing his face. He wore a white tank top, blue jeans, a pair of orange sneakers, and a burnt orange jacket that was unzipped, showing off his muscular body through his tank top. On the top of his jacket was brown fur that looked like it belonged to a Eevee. After smirking at himself in the mirror, he walked over to the bag he had packed last night for his journey. He couldn't wait. He could finally leave the town of Palette and journey the world. Naruto sighed and grabbed his bag and threw it on his shoulders. He walked through the door of his bedroom. Before closing it he took one last look around before smiling sadly. After closing the door, he walked down the stairs and smelled the delicious scent of food coming from the kitchen, and walked in to see his guardian and adopted mother Delia Ketchum cooking while humming. "Hey, Mom," Naruto said happily, which caused Delia to jump a bit before looking at him with a big smile that showed some sadness. "Good morning, sweetie. I made your favorites. Please sit down and eat before you go pick up your Pokemon from Professor Oak," Mom said to me while keeping up her smile. "Okay Mom. You know it's okay to be sad Mom. I know you hoped I wouldn't want to be a trainer after the incident a few years ago to that young trainer. But I want to do this. I will promise to call you every day. Unlike Ash, I don't like to see you sad Mom. I will catch you 2 Pokemon, if that's okay. I know you get lonely, plus a grass type would be great for your garden," I said, which caused her to smile. "Thanks dear. I know. You will be okay, but I can't help but worry now, can I? I hope you catch me a very cute grass type, maybe a Oddish. Maybe a Meowth or Vulpix for the second. Be nice to have something to baby. I expect you to call me every day. Unlike Ash, you are responsible," Mom said while smiling. "Hey, I know Mom. Well, let's eat. I want to get a Pokemon before they all get taken, that way I can show it to you before I hit Route 1. I want to hit Viridian by nightfall," I said while starting to eat. We ate for the next 30 minutes, as I was about to leave to head to Professor Oak's lab. Mom hugged me, while saying to me, "I know, you are coming back, but I need to say this regardless. If you see those people on your journey, don't start anything. Okay? Just leave. Find somewhere to calm down and call me. Okay sweetie?" Mom said to me while looking at me with a frown. I stiffened while my jaw clenched when I think about them. My biological parents. The ones who gave me up for adoption because I wasn't a girl. Those people, Minato Namikaze and Kushina Uzumaki, along with my supposedly 2 older sisters Narumi and Skyla. I don't know if my siblings know about me, but I can care less about my so-called parents. Don't worry Mom, unless it's an official battle, I will kindly ignore them. They had their chance, and they gave me up because I wasn't a precious daughter. You are the only person I consider family other than Ash. So don't worry, if I come across them, I doubt they notice me. If they do I will just leave and call you," I said while looking at the woman who is my adopted mother, and the one I considered my real one. "I know dear. It's just that Professor Oak has been asked about you by them, as they know you were adopted by someone here. Me and him promised to never tell them, but I fear if they see you, they will put it together and try and take you away," Mom said while I could hear her to start sniffling. "Tut, tut, tut. No crying Mom, only happy tears for when I leave, and come back a champion. My biological parents can go to Giratina's domain for all I care. You are all I need as a family," I said while hugging her tightly, which caused her to cry a bit, but in happiness this time. After letting her go, I waved bye to her and rushed to Professor Oak's lab, hoping I make it in time. Time skip. 20 minutes. After a 20-minute jog, I made it to Professor Oak's lab, but couldn't get in as it was crowded with people cheering, holding up signs for Gary Oak. Odd. Why is Gary here? Naruto thought while pushing through the crowd. As he made it to the front, of course standing in front of them was Gary Oak, Professor Oak's grandson and so-called golden boy of Pallet. It is I, Gary Oak. I might have lost in the Indigo League, but it was due to pure luck that the noob beat me. I will beat the Johto League and become the champion. I rolled my eyes and walked past Gary, while saying yeah right. And I am going to capture Arceus herself. While passing him, making some of the people in the crowd laugh. After smirking at him, as he scowled at me, I ascended the steps towards Professor Oak's lab, and waited until the old man answered the door. Ah, Naruto my boy, how good to see you. I see you are here for your starter. Come right in, Professor Oak said with a grandfatherly smile. I followed Professor Oak in and we headed to the back room where he always gave out his Pokemon and Pokédex from. He said the room had a mysterious feel to it. I am not sure what I have left my boy, a rather odd influx of trainers this year, so while I might not have a starter, I do have a lot of Pokemon for you to choose from. I will let you look on the computer, and I will see if I have one. Professor Oak said to me while I nodded understanding. I knew there would be more trainers this year. But damn, I guess they all wanted to get out of Pallet since they upped the limit. I thought while sitting down and scrolling through the PC. After a good 45 minutes of searching I had it narrowed down between Ponyta, Eevee, and Absol. After thinking on it for another 15 minutes, I decided to go with Absol, so I turned around and started to look for Professor Oak. After finding him feeding some Pokemon, I ran up to him. Hey Professor Oak, you wouldn't happen to have a Absol would you? I asked, hoping he would. But I felt my heart sag a bit as he looked at me sadly. Sorry Naruto, but I gave out my last one earlier. I do however have a Eevee if that will placate you. I saw you had it narrowed down to Ponyta and Eevee before I left. I don't have a Ponyta. I had a shiny one but he was going to Yugito ni in Kalos. I owed Professor in Kalos a favor, and he asked as she was his brother's pupil. So sorry my boy. I was actually expecting you to choose between the many Growliths, Pikachus I had. Sorry if that wasn't what you wanted. Professor Oak said sadly. Nah, that's okay. I was shocked you had Absol in the database and wanted to get one earlier than Hoenn. Eevee will be fine. So many evolutions to choose from. Can I see my new partner? Naruto asked in anticipation. I should have asked you earlier in the day what you wanted. I gave Absol to them. Narumi wanted it as a new contest Pokemon, I heard Professor Oak say with disappointment in his voice. It's cool. While they threw me away when I was born, they at least love their Pokemon. I rather Absol be with them than a Pokemon abuser. I said, convincing myself I wasn't jealous. Anyway, follow me my boy. I shall introduce you to Eevee. She is very shy at first. Professor Oak said while leading me to a play area for the Pokemon. I looked over and saw Eevee playing with a Sentret, as a Furret watched. As we came closer, Furret noticed before saying her name and scurrying up Professor Oak's arm while laying on top of his head, making him chuckle. Morning, Fur. How is Sentret and Eevee doing today? Professor Oak asked to his longtime partner, and surprisingly champion-level Furret, Fur. Fur. She said while nodding her head up and down, indicating they were doing good today. I watched Professor Oak scratch Furret's ear, and watched her purr her name happily as we both looked at the Pokemon. They had stopped playing after hearing us come up, and stared at me as I was an unknown person. I sighed and put down my bag, and walked into the area before sitting down on my behind, hoping to seem more inviting to the Pokemon. I waited a few minutes, before Sentret came over to me and looked over me cautiously. It then looked at its mother, and when it got a head nod from her, it said its name happily before scampering up my body before sitting on my shoulder while nuzzling into my cheeks. Scene treat. Scene. The little Sentret said. Why hello there Sentret. It is very nice to meet you. I never knew Fur had a baby. I said holding out my hand, and watched amusingly as Sentret sniffed it before putting its tail in my hand before doing a weird version of a handshake. I started to scratch it behind its ears, making it relax happily, and watched as Eevee looked at me with nervous eyes, before walking over to me very slowly, in case I decided to attack. After reaching my pants leg, she started to sniff to make sure I didn't have poison or something on me, I guess, and when she was satisfied she moved into my lap and sniffed around again, and kept repeating the pattern until she decided to sit in my lap, and look up at me with a tilted head. "Vooey," Evie said to me with her head tilted. I used my free arm, and placed my hand on her head. I felt her tense up for a minute, but relax as I started to scratch behind her ears too. I smirked as I felt her tail wag, and her purring her name happily, while moving her head back and forth trying to make my fingers go deeper. After a few minutes of doing this to both Pokemon, I stopped and looked down at Evie while smiling, which made her tilt her head in confusion again. "Evie, I know you are a shy Pokemon, but I would be honored if you joined me as my starter to Pokemon." Professor Oak never asked, but would you rather Pokemon battle or contest battle? 1 nod for Pokemon battle, and 2 for contest. I said, hoping she would join me. I watched as Evie looked at me for a few minutes, before sniffing me again before wagging her tail happily and saying her name happily, while giving me 1 nod. "Vooey," Evie said, while rubbing her head into my stomach happily. "Hee hee, I am glad you are willing to join me, girl. I bought a special Pokeball for you, since you will be my starter," I said, pulling out a luxury ball. It was custom made, so it was orange on the top, and blue on the bottom. It was truly one of a kind. I watched as Evie looked at the Pokeball curiously, before tapping the button with her nose, and watched as she got censored it in. After a few seconds of the ball swaying back and forth, it made a ding sound, indicating she was caught. I picked up her Pokeball, smiling before releasing her again on the floor. "Vooey, Vooey," Evie said, looking around before spotting me. She ran up to me with her tail wagging while pawing at my jeans, while looking up at me. I chuckled before reaching down, and placing her in my arms. "Why hello there, Evie, before we get ready to go, I am going to scan you with the Pokédex to know your moves, and what you can learn. Also so I can give you a nickname, then we will go see my adopted mother for a bit, then hit the road to Route 1. What you say?" I said while smiling at her happily. Vooey," Evie said happily while snuggling into my arms. I pulled out my Pokédex, which Professor Oak says was a national dex as it contained information for Pokemon up to Kalos, but probably not needed as mostly only up to Sinnoh Pokemon migrate towards Kanto. I pointed it at Evie, and watched it pull up her information on its holographic screen. Evie, the evolution Pokemon. This Evie is female, and carries the abilities Adaptation and Adaptability, known moves Tackle, Tail Whip, Growl, Wish, Egg move. Not bad for a beginning move set. I have some money saved up from odd jobs. I bet I could probably buy Double Team, Return, and either Dig or Shadow Ball in Viridian at the market. We will have you ready for Pewter Gym, no doubt," I said while smiling down at Evie, while rubbing her head. "Vooey," she said while looking at me happily. What to call you? How about Haim? You will always be my little princess, no matter what you evolve into," I said, hoping she liked it, as I didn't want to name her something that was totally opposite to what she evolved into. "Vooey, Vooey," I looked down but saw darkness as Evie had her tail wrapped around my face, and nuzzling her cheeks against mine while saying Vooey, Vooey, over and over again. After a few minutes of being cheek assaulted by Haim, I put her in the hood of my jacket and chuckled as I felt her get comfortable while having her head lay on my shoulder with her peeking out under the coat. After giving Professor Oak a hug, and getting 5 extra Pokeballs, I headed out of his lab and walked at a fast pace towards the house. As I was getting closer, I saw Mom and some of the neighbors outside cheering and smiling at me. "Ooh, sweetie, I was wondering what was taking so long," Mom said while hugging me. "Hey, sorry Mom, it took me a while to choose between the Pokemon I wanted. Sadly he didn't have a Absol, but I believe I got something better." "Haim, please quit hiding under my jacket," I said as she was starting to tickle me. I watched as Mom looked at me confusingly, before Haim popped her head out of my jacket, from under my tank top to be exact, while saying her name. "Vooey," she said looking around. "Don't be shy girl, this is my mother, she is as gentle as a caterpie's string shot," I said, and watched as Haim sniffed Mom's hand before giving it a lick, which made Mom squeal, which resulted in Evie freaking out and hiding her head back under my tank top and jacket, which caused her to continuously tickle me with her tail. Mom, she is shy. I swear you did this on purpose, she is tickling me relentlessly. I said, whining, which caused Mom to chuckle. I am sorry dear, she is just so cute. Anyway, here is some food I put in some Tupperware, it will stay heated for a good. It is your favorite chili, and I made some Pokemon-friendly jerky. I bet she would love some. I expect you to call me as soon as you get to Viridian, young man. Unlike Ash, I expect you not to worry your dearest mother. She said with a sickly sweet smile. I watched as a lot of our neighbors shiver under that smile, as it meant, you will see pain if it ever came out. I sighed, and gave her a hug and a kiss on the cheek. While reassuring her I will call her as soon I check in, unlike my idiot of a brother. I stepped back and waved towards her and the neighbors that said they will support me and keep track of whatever I do. I thanked them, and decided to head to Route 1. Ready Evie, I said looking down at Haim. Vui, she responded while wagging her tail. So we set off down the road, walking towards the area where Route 1 starts. Route 1. As soon as I stepped on Route 1, I couldn't help but shake in excitement and nervousness. Haim must have picked up on it as she snaked her head around from my hood, and looked at me with concern. Vui, I heard he ask me, which I assumed in poke speech meant are you okay? Yeah, Haim, I am fine, this is just the first time I have ever left Pallet. I am excited and nervous. I have been preparing for this since I was 9, I just never thought I would actually see it. I said while rubbing Haim's head. After taking a few deep breaths, I started walking down the side of the concrete road, on the path designated for walkers. After a half an hour, we came across our first enemy, a Rattata. I asked Haim if she wanted to fight, and watched as she jumped down. I saw the Rattata turn around, and expected it to run as they are usually scared. But this one had some fight in it, as it bared its fangs and said its name with confidence, while eyeing up its opponent. All right Haim, start off with growl, I said and watched as Haim growled at the Rattata, causing it to become scared a moment, which resulted in it lowering its guard. Haim, tackle attack, I saw Evie take off, and within a few feet of the Rattata, she lowered her head and hit it head on. Rata, it yelled in pain as it flew a few yards while sliding on the ground. I watched as Rattata got up and take off at a fast speed, said nose quick attack, not bad. I thought of a way to counter it. All right Haim, wait until I say so and jump in the air and do a front flip while using tail whip. I said making her look at me for a second, before nodding. I watched as Rattata was getting closer and I watched as it hit a small hole, and lost its balance for a second. Now Haim, I yelled, and watched as Haim ran before doing a front flip while swinging her tail. Due to the speed and force from her flipping it acted like a pound attack and knocked the poor Rattata out. After scooping up Haim and showering her with praise, which made her curl up in the hood of my jacket while covering her face with her tail due to embarrassment, I leaned down and gave the Rattata Oran berry to help regain its strength, while letting it chew on a piece of jerky before petting it and walking down the road after telling it bye. Time skip. 2 hours. The next 2 hours dragged on. We fought some more Rattata, a few Caterpies, the occasional Pidgey. I spotted a few Spearows, but I wasn't going to risk a flock attack. After pulling out my poke nav I noticed we were around 40 minutes away from Viridian, so I decided to take a break and eat a late lunch. I put Haim on the ground and pulled out 2 Pokemon bowls and filled one with water, and the other a special Pokemon blend I made. It was nothing special, but Pokemon who were forced to scavenge, or used to eating the stock poke chow usually love my blend as I add crushed up berries to give it a delicious flavor. I chuckled as I saw Evie head first in the bowl, eating like a Snorlax possessed. After refilling her bowls with food and water, I took out my Tupperware Mom gave me, and smelled the heavenly aroma. Good Mom makes the best chili, I said while drooling. I unpacked some crackers and crushed them up and started to devour the food, making Evie look at me and wag her tail, like she was begging for some food. Vui, I heard Haim say while pawing my legs, while looking up at me. I sighed and pushed some of the chili into her bowl, and watched as she licked it a bit before taking small bites as it was still pretty hot. After a few minutes adjusting to the heat, Evie started to eat it with vigor. So you like it too, huh Haim? I said while rubbing her fur. Vui, she said while nodding her head up and down at a fast pace. Hey, I know the recipe. but it doesn't turn out as heavenly as Mom's. But still it's pretty good. I read up all Pokemon Center rooms are equipped with a small fridge and a stove oven, so I can cook it from time to time. I said and laughed as Eevee jumped up and down happily. After cleaning Eevee's bowls in the river next to us, I packed everything up and headed off down the road. After a 10-minute walk, we came across a dude around my age. He had spiky hair, what looked like 2 elongated canine fangs in his mouth, and 2 red fang-looking tattoos on his face. He looked at me and smirked. "Hey kid, I challenge you to a battle," the mystery man said. "Really, kid, we are the same age, dumbass," I said lazily, which pissed him off. "We shall see. Growlithe, go," the dumbass said, and threw a Pokeball. I watched as a 4-legged canine Pokemon materialized. He had an orange body, and black stripes along its body, and brownish fur under its mouth, on top of its head and tail. It wagged its tail as it saw its trainer, but growled and got into a defensive position as it sensed me. "All right Heim, time to fight," I said and watched as Eevee jumped from the hood of my jacket and land on the battlefield. Vooey, growl, both Eevee and Growlithe measured each other, before the mystery ass called out an attack. "Growlithe, Ember," he yelled. Growlithe tensed up, and lowered the frontal part of his body before opening his mouth and shooting out small fireballs at Eevee. "Eevee, dodge and use tackle," I yelled and watched as Eevee dodged and ran towards Growlithe ready to strike. 3-1, it Nosebite or Fire Fang. I thought and smirked when I was right. "Ha, you feel for it kid. Growlithe, bite," mystery ass yelled to his Pokemon. "Eevee, stop using tackle, and swing on your front paws with the motion and hit him in the eyes with Tail Whip," I said and watched as Eevee slam on the brakes, and used the force of her weight and speed she was running at, to spin on her front paws and hit Growlithe right in the eyes with Tail Whip. I watched as Growlithe's eyes closed in pain and started shaking its head while howling in pain. "Shit, Growlithe," the mystery ass yelled, but it was too late. "Heim, tackle it right under the jaw, then do what we did earlier on Rattata," I said and watched as Heim hit Growlithe right on the jaw with tackle, which caused it to go up in the air a bit. And then Heim ran forward before doing a front flip and hitting it with a Tail Whip. A few seconds later, Growlithe hit the ground, passed out. "Shit, Growlithe, return. Damn, you were pretty good for a kid," the mystery ass said while walking up to me. "Thanks," I said as I picked up Heim, and set her in my hood. "The name's Kiba Inuzuka. What's your name?" the man named Kiba said while sticking out his hand for a handshake. I grabbed it and shook it while responding. "The name's Naruto Ketchum." And I felt my eye twitch as I saw the censored named Kiba start howling Ketchum. "More like ketchup. Ha ha ha." I watched as the censored fell onto the ground and roll around in laughter. I ignored him and just started to walk away, while he was rolling around in laughter. "Cuckoo, next time we meet Mutt, you will regret comparing me to ketchup," I said while cackling like a madman. Viridian City. 10 minutes later. The last 10 minutes on Route 1 were boring. I was tempted to stop at the river and see what kind of water Pokemon I could fish up, but decided against it. I wanted to get Heim healed up at the Pokemon Center, and see what TMs the market had, if any at all. As I entered the small city, I noticed it was a little busy, must be from the Indigo League. I thought while jotting down that there were a decent amount of people. I hope the center has a room open, I thought while walking through the double doors of the Pokemon Center. After entering, I looked around and saw Nurse Joy at the front desk, so I walked over to her with a smile on the face. As I got closer, she raised her head and smiled at me. "Hello there, how can I help you today?" she said with a smile. "Ah, yes Nurse Joy. I would like Eevee healed please, and would there happen to be a room available for the night?" I said, hoping I wouldn't have to pay an exorbitant amount for a hotel. "Yes, right away. I happen to have one room left. Just hand me your Pokédex so I can use it to register it to your trainer account," Nurse Joy said, so I returned Heim to her Pokeball and handed it to her with my Pokédex. After a few seconds she returned me the Pokédex and handed me a card key. "This will be your key to get into your room. It's room 209, it's the last door on the left, checkout will be at 1 p.m. At the latest, if you need another night, please bring me your Pokédex again. Eevee should be healed within the next 30 minutes, I will call for your name on speaker." she said before taking Haim's Pokeball in the back. Instead of going straight to the room, I walked out the double doors and turned left. After about a minute of walking, I came across the one-story building that was commonly known as the Pokemart. It was a blue building that had Mart written on the right-hand side in giant red letters. After looking at it for a second, I walked through the automatic double doors, and let the cold breeze that came from inside hit me. As soon as I entered, I looked around, and found the TM section on the far right-hand side of the mart. After making my way through the few trainers and tourists in the mart, I ended at the TM section and hoped they had a few I wanted. I gulped and paled as I saw some of the prices for certain TMs. Hyper Beam was running around 20k Pokedollars. I kept looking inside as I saw Double Team, and Dig, I sighed a little as with taxes, it would run around 4k Pokedollars. Damn. Not bad. But not good either. Looks like I will be eating center cafeteria food for a while until I get money from gym battles. I thought while sighing. I forced myself to the counter, as I knew if I stayed I would go flat broke, and have to ask Mom for money. While Mom was pretty well off, I didn't like having to ask her for too much, as she gave me everything I could ever ask for. An actual family, love, shelter, and support. Not even them did that. After shaking those thoughts out of my head, I walked over to a fast food stand and grabbed something cheap, 2 burgers, a fry and a drink. After paying for my food, I walked back to the Pokemon Center and waited for my name to be called. After 5 minutes, I heard my name come over the intercom. Naruto, to the front desk. Naruto, to the front desk. Nurse Joy said. I got up and walked over to the front desk, where I saw Haim sitting on the counter while wagging her tail happily as she saw me. After I got within a few feet, she jumped from the counter and onto my shoulder. I had to steady my arm so I didn't drop my food and drink. After Haim licked my cheek for a few seconds, she snuggled up in my hood and laid down. She is completely healed. She was in perfect health. Please come again, Nurse Joy said while smiling. Thanks, Nurse Joy. See you in the morning, I said before walking down the hall to find the room. It took a minute due to trainers walking in and out of their rooms, but I found room 209 at the left end of the hall. I put down my food and swiped my card, before picking it up and walked inside and closed the door. I looked around and smiled as it had 2 beds, one on each side. A pretty big aquarium for people who train water Pokemon small enough for it. A perch for medium-sized flying types. A comfortable-looking bed made out of fluffy wool for large-type Pokemon. A mini fridge and freezer, a stove, a sink and garbage disposer. I went into the bathroom and found it had a pretty big shower, that had a waterfall-type shower head so that the water falls from the ceiling. I whistled and decided to put my bag down. I let Haim down and let her explore the room. I sat at a small desk that looked to be used by people who had laptops or tablets. I pulled out the chair and sat down while pulling out my 2 burgers and fries. As I was eating, I pulled out my Poke Nav and decided to call Mom. I hit the contact for home, and watched as it ringed. After a minute of ringing, I heard it get picked up. Yes, Ketchum residence. Mom spoke. Hey Mom, I said cheerfully, and watched as she perked up and smiled at me. Naruto, dear, I see you made it to Viridian City fine. How was Route 1? She said, asking me about my journey so far. It was fine so far, Mom. Nothing really happened. I fought a few Pokemon and a trainer, but that was it. How is everything so far at home? I asked, hoping she wasn't too lonely. I am fine, dear. Professor Oak came over earlier and dropped off Fur and her Sentret, so I haven't been too lonely. She said while smiling at me. That's good. I am glad you are fine. I don't like it when you are sad, Mom. Rumors in the center is that some audition Badoos migrated in. So I should have you one of those within the next day or 2. I said, watching Mom get excited at the thought of having a great Pokemon to help her with her gardens. I can't wait, dear. I know whatever one you catch will be perfect for you, dear Mom. I expect a call before you leave for the forest, and when you get to Pewter or back to Viridian. Got it, mister. I chuckled and nodded, as I would have done it anyway. Sue overprotective and cautious. But I understand totally. No problem, Mom. I know you would worry unless I called, and I hate seeing you like that anyway. I said and watched her smile softly. Ah, so unlike Ash. I wish he would pick up this trait. Mom said while smirking at me. Ah ha ha, if he did, the world would end. I bet, I said while laughing. We chatted for a few minutes, and I told her how Haim loved her chili, which made Mom squeal in happiness, which resulted in Evie hiding under the bed's blanket. And she told me how she found a Mr. Mime injured down the street earlier, and took it to Professor Oak's lab. I was shocked as Mr. Mimes shouldn't be wild around here. Must be abandoned. Poor souls, if Mom ever finds them. I shivered. After a few more minutes, we both said goodbye as I wanted to grab a shower and get an early night's sleep. Good night, sweetie. Don't forget to call me in the morning, Mom said to me. I won't. Night, Mom. Tell Fur and Sentret good night for me too, I said while hanging up. After getting up and stretching, I threw my trash in the trash bin, and pulled out my sleepwear for the night, blue pajamas that were tight and a blue tank top. I striped naked before walking into the bathroom to grab my shower. After a nice long shower, I walked back out and saw Haim looking at me. What is it, girl? I said with a raised eyebrow. Vui. All she did was cover her face with her tail, and curl up beside the pillow. Shit, she saw me naked, totally forgot. So used to changing at home without a Pokemon around, I thought while face palming. I sighed and pulled off the covers and slipped them back over me. I felt Haim curl up into my neck while giving me a good night lick. Good night, Haim, I said while kissing her on the top of her head. Vui. Vui, she said before she yawned and snuggled closer, while closing her eyes. I sat there staring at the ceiling for an hour, before falling asleep thinking first day down, a lot more to go. I woke up as I was feeling ticklish. I opened my eyes and saw Haim rubbing her tail on the crook of my neck, while smirking at me. Vui, Vui, she said while rubbing her tail some more. Ha ha, stop it, girl, I said while laughing. After a few more minutes, I rushed her and scooped her into my arms and started to tickle her belly. Vui, 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 Vui. Haim squealed as I was tickling her like a madman. After a few minutes of tickling her, I looked over to the clock and saw it said 9 a.m. I pulled out some Pokemon food and water. After I filled up Haim's bowls, one grabbed my clothes and went into the bathroom to change, as I didn't want to flash Haim again. I pulled out my Poke Nav and checked the weather for today, and read that it was going to be around 39 degrees and heavy rain. Well damn, Viridian is going to censor then, I thought while pulling up my jeans, and throwing on my socks and tying my boots' shoelaces up. I put on a sweatshirt, a hoodie and then my jacket. Well, at least if it rains, Haim can lay in my hood while I use the jacket to cover both of our heads, I said while sighing. I walked back out and saw Haim licking herself clean, before jumping up with her tails wagging before running over to me. Vui, she said looking up at me. I smiled and bent down to pick her up, and placed her into the hood of my hoodie. I chuckled as she looked between my hoodie to the jacket and back, before tilting her head in confusion. Vui. Haha, girl, I am wearing a hoodie because it's going to be chilly and windy today, and the jacket is for the rain. Supposed to be heavy rain, so I am wearing it so we both can be covered while you snuggle in the hood, you lazy Evie, I said and chuckled even more when she bopped me on the nose with her tail while huffing and turning away. I grabbed my bag and threw it on, while pocketing my Pokédex and the card key for the room, and looked around to make sure everything was okay. After nodding, I opened the door and walked out while closing it and decided to hit the cafeteria really quick. After a few minutes, I found the Pokemon's cafeteria and saw that it was pretty much empty. Either breakfast is done, or everyone went out to a restaurant or fast food joint, I said while looking around. After seeing food was still out, I got in line. After walking through the line and grabbing a plate of food, I made my way to the table while grabbing a carton of milk to drink. After sitting down and placing my tray on the table, I let Haim jump down beside me and watched as she sniffed the air. I started to eat my scrambled eggs, toast, bacon, and instant grits with gusto. Hey, might not be 5-star, but free food is still good, I muttered to Haim, who just tilted her head in confusion. As I was eating, I pulled out my Poke Nav and hit the contact for home, since no one was around. I just let it go to speaker. Yawn. Ketchum residence, Mom said while rubbing her eyes. Cuckoo, as soon as I leave. You sleep in, Mom, I am hurt, I said while faking a hurt voice. I watched as Mom perked up and smiled at me. Morning dear, I didn't mean to sleep in. I just couldn't fall asleep. First time I didn't have either of my boys around. Mom said with a sad smile. I frowned also as I knew she would be sad for a while. Don't worry Mom, I will come home periodically, once I have a flying type or a psychic type, plus I should have you either a Oddish or a Badoo I hope today. I said trying to make her cheerful again, and it must have worked as she became happy, but that only lasted for a few seconds before she became worried. Naruto dear, be careful in Viridian Forest. It is supposed to rain very heavily and be extremely windy. That can cause the Beedrills to be irritable. Mom said while giving me a worried-filled glance. Ah, don't worry, me and Haim will be fine. I will make sure to stay out of the Beedrills' way. I will call you as soon as I get into pewter if the storm lets me, if not as soon as I get on a videophone at the center, okay? I said making sure to ease her worry. Okay dear, I should get going. Fur and Centret just woke up and they need breakfast like you or Ash, hee. I will see you later this evening, she said while smiling. Yeah, have a good day Mom. Love you, I said smiling at Mom. Love you too, she said hanging up. Alright, you ready to go Haim? I said looking down at my Evie, who just stared at me before nodding. Vui, she said. I picked her up and put her in the hood of my hoodie. I dumped my trash in the bin, and walked up to Nurse Joy and handed her the card key while waving goodbye to her and wishing her a good day while smiling. Before I walked out the doors, I looked at the TV and saw that the rain would be here within the next hour. Well crap, looks like the forest is going to be one wet mess, Haim. I said and watched as she nuzzled her face in the back of my neck while saying her name. I decided to put the jacket's hood on and used the little strings on each side to keep it from coming off in the wind. I looked to my right and saw Evie's face peeking out the side like a shadow, and chuckled. I see you got comfortable huh, hopefully we don't have to fight any Pokemon. You will have to go in the Pokeball if so, as the rain will just make the ground muddy. I said as I heard Haim whine sadly at the thought of going back in the Pokeball. I walked out the double doors and met the cold air that was blowing at around 25 miles per hour. I felt Evie change positions so her back was towards the air and snuggle into my hood. I chuckled and just kept walking towards Route 2, and Viridian Forest. The small walk on Route 2 was boring. I was hoping to run into either a Nidoran male or female, but they all must be in their den due to this storm coming. Not a single Pokemon is out. Could the storm be getting worse? Usually, a few are out, but not a single one is going for last-minute food. Odd. I sighed and decided to push through it. It will either be a boring walk, or a complete cluster censored. I thought as I walked through the doors into the building that served as the entrance to the forest. Viridian Forest. I looked around at the nice lush forest, the giant green trees, the beautiful exotic flowers and plants due to the constant migration of other regional bug Pokemon. As I was looking around I felt a few drops of water hit my nose, and sighed. Starting already, let's getting going, I said to myself and started walking through the grass and bushes. After around 20 minutes of seeing nothing, I heard a small cry behind some trees. I looked around to try and pinpoint it, but Haim stuck her tail out from behind my head and pointed in the direction. Thanks girl, I said to her, which caused her to run her tail over my neck. I walked to the direction Haim said, and pushed the bushes away and saw something that made me frown. In the clearing getting drenched by rain, was a Doduo trapped in what looked to be a claw trap. It was pecking furiously at the trap while crying in pain. I pushed through the bushes, and watched as it stopped what it was doing, and looked at me with both heads while narrowing its eyes, and saying its name over and over. I walked closer to it with my hands out, hoping it wouldn't take me as a threat, and watch as both heads opened their mouth and I paled as I saw a thunder, fire, and ice attack form. Shit. It knows try attack, usually they don't learn it till evolution. I said amazed, but I stopped. Haim, please come tell Doduo I mean it no harm, I said and watched as Doduo's heads tilted to the side in confusion. I felt Evie wiggle out the hood, and jumped to the ground while walking over to Doduo. While Haim made her way over, I looked at Doduo's neck and noticed it was black, so a male then, I thought while watching Evie sit on her hind legs, and start talking to Doduo. Vui, 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 Evie Vui, Vui, she said while pointing her paw at me then towards Doduo before wagging her tail. I watched as both of Doduo's heads looked me, before looking down at Haim, then squeaked its name. Duo, it said while nodding both of its heads. I watched as Evie nodded her head happily and ran back over to me, and nudged my pants legs and wrapped her tail around my ankle and pulled it forward. I took it as a signal to follow her, so I moved behind her, and watched as Haim lead me to the trap. Okay girl, I need you to stand back, these traps are a pain in the ass. Doduo, when I say jump, these traps clamp fast and the force causes it to move quiet a bit. I said, getting a nod from both Pokemon. I cracked my knuckles and bent down to the trap. I censored it in some air and yanked it open while meeting a lot of resistance. Jump, I yelled at Doduo, who jumped forward while narrowing its eyes in pain. As I saw the injured foot free of the trap, I took my hands off of it and watched it snap shut and the force cause it yank back 5 feet. I grunted as I felt a bit of pain, and looked down to saw some blood falling from my hand. Must have been the sharp edge when I pulled it open. Oh well, nothing too bad, I said while pulling out some bandages and wrapped gauze around it. I heard Haim whine worriedly while looking at my hand. I couldn't resist a chuckle and petted her with my injury-free left hand. I watched as she nuzzled into my hand with a happy face. It's okay girl, nothing too bad, I can get it stitched up in pewter. I know mom will be worried but I am sure she will understand, I said before feeling 2 pecks in my right shoulder. I looked over to see Doduo looking at me with concern and happiness. I raised my left hand and rubbed its left head, then right head, and watched amusingly as they both said their name happily. I am glad you are okay boy. I am glad I heard your cry. I know you must have been scared and hurt, I said, while both heads nodded sadly. I put my bag down and searched through the bag to find a super potion and bandages. After finding what I needed, I told him to hold still as it would sting for a second and sprayed his leg with it, and watched as it closed its eye in pain for a few. Then I wrapped the bandage around its leg until it was tight enough and tied it off. There you go, it should be fine, I said while looking at Doduo while rubbing both of its heads. I reached in my bag and gave him some berries I had that I usually crush into cereal, and watched as he pecked at them before swallowing them all whole. After packing up my bandages and stuff in the bag, I grabbed a towel and dried off Haim and Doduo, and placed Haim back in her little spot, before pulling up my hood again. I placed my towel into my dirty clothes pocket side of the bag, and threw my bag back on. Well buddy, you should get going, this rain and wind will only get worse. Should find a spot to bunker down so you don't strain your leg too much. I better get going also. I don't want to have to stick too long in this rain. I have a feeling it is only going to get worse than it should be, I said before rubbing his heads again before turning around. I made it maybe 40 feet, before Doduo jogged up beside me while saying its name while looking at me. All I could do was raise an eyebrow at him. What's up bud? Going to pewter, I said wondering why he was going this way, but he nodded his head. Is your nest this way? I said again, but got a negative nod this time too. You want to come with me? I said and this time I got a positive nod, which caused me to stop. Didn't think that. While they can fly, they are one of the fastest land Pokemon, I thought before putting my hand on his right head, and sighed. Duo, Doduo said while rubbing his right head into my hand, while his left head looked to my Pokeballs. I sighed and plucked a Pokeball from my belt and held it towards Doduo. I watched as he looked at it. After a few seconds he used his left head to peck the button and got censored it in. After a few seconds of fighting, it dinged in my hand signaling I caught it. I smiled, before shrinking the Pokeball and put it on my belt while muttering to him, I will let you out after we get to pewter, and you looked at I felt the ball shake in understanding. After doing a check over, hood tight, check. Bag situated, check. Doduo's ball set, check. After sighing and nodding I started to continue walking down the forested path, hoping I would find Mama Badu or Oddish. Time skip. 40 minutes. In the last 40 minutes, I traversed the entire forest almost. But not a single damn Pokemon. I could understand why. It was windy, it was like a flock of Pidgey using Gust, and like a few powerful Pokemon using Rain Dance, it was shitty. After frowning and wondering where the hell they all are, I decided to release Doduo really quick to see if he happened to see a few of them during his time here. I watched as Doduo materialized before looking around confused. Duo, it said with confusion in its eyes. Sorry for letting you out sooner, bud. But I was wondering if you happened to see and know where a few Oddish and Badu were. I said and watched as Doduo eyes light up and nodded, before using both heads to say follow me, and we walked off into the deeper parts of the forest. After a good 20-minute walk, Doduo led us to a clearing that had a small river running through it. I saw a few Oddish, Shroomish, Badu roaming around and chatting happily. I sighed and saw a few of them look at me before going back to what they were doing. I raised my eyebrows in thought. They must be used to trainers coming here. I wonder why, I said before going near the river and sit down. I watched as Doduo talked to some of them. He must have known them before he got captured. I watched as they played a bit, before Doduo ran over to me, and I pulled out some berries to give to him as I figured he would be hungry. Hey Doduo, can you see if any of your friends would like to leave the forest? My mom wants a Pokemon from her house and garden. They would be pretty much spoiled. I said, hoping he understood what I was saying, and watched as he nodded and walked off. After about 5 minutes, I saw Doduo come back with a very shy-looking Oddish. I got a better look at it, and the other Oddish, and realized it was smaller than the others. Is it a baby? I thought. Welcome back Doduo, and who are you, little one? I said and watched as Oddish hid behind Doduo's leg, while Doduo said its name. Are you a baby Oddish? You are smaller than the others. I said and watched as Doduo nodded at me with sad eyes, and I heard sniffling and looked down to see Oddish with teary eyes. Shit, is its parents gone? I thought and reached out to take Oddish in my hands. I rubbed its grassy head and watched as Oddish quit being sad and swayed back and forth happily. Oddish, it said, would you like to go to a great home, Oddish? My mom is looking for a grass Pokemon to help with her garden. She will love you like a mother should and feed you. I said and watched as the little one thought for a bit, before looking at Doduo, who nodded his head to him. I saw Oddish look at me before nodding its head. Okay, I will capture you in this Pokeball. I will let you out at Pewter City along with Doduo. I have to call my mom when I reach there anyway. Be a nice way for you both to meet her, I said while continuously rubbing Oddish's head as it swayed back and forth. After a few minutes, I pulled out a Pokeball and tapped it to Oddish and watched as I caught it. As I put its ball on my belt, I decided to look up both Doduo and Oddish's information on the Pokédex, so I recalled Doduo while pulling out my Pokédex. Doduo, the twin bird Pokemon. This Pokemon is male. It has the ability, Early Bird. Known moves: Peck, Quick Attack, Try Attack, Growl, Brave Bird, Egg Move. Closing square bracket. I whistled looking over its information. I scrolled down to Oddish and my eyes widened. Oddish, the weed Pokemon. This Pokemon is female, and has the ability, Chlorophyll. Known moves: Sweet Scent, Mega Drain, Double Edge, Seed Bomb, Synthesis, Egg Move. I couldn't help but whistle. You must have trained hard. I know leaving you in mom's hand will be the right thing, I said, smiling down at Oddish's ball, and felt it shake in happiness. I looked up, frowning at wind kicking up, and put my Pokédex away. I continued walking out the forest while having him battle a few Caterpies that were looking for food, a few Metapods that fell from wherever they stayed. After about an hour of walking with the occasional fight, I finally made it to the other side and walked through the doors. I took a minute to stretch and look at the time, 5:25 p.m. Wow. It took longer than I thought. I thought before continuing through the exit or entrance to the road that led to Pewter City. I couldn't help but sigh and grumble the entire road that led towards Pewter. This censored, at least the forest had trees. I am getting soaked worse than a waterle from a Wailord, I said, complaining the entire time, while getting wet to the bone. Pewter City. After walking through blinding rain for the next 5 minutes, I came into Pewter City and was getting close to the center when I heard, "Move out the way." I heard someone yell. I looked around and couldn't see anything before I looked up due the flapping of wings. I jumped back as I saw a Dragonite flapping its wings while slowing down as it was landing. I couldn't help but stare wide-eyed as this was the first time I was seeing one. I watched as the regal-looking Dragonite landed, and ran my eyes over to the person riding it, and I looked away with a large blush. On the Dragonite's back was a beautiful woman, with light blue hair, and beautiful blue eyes. She had a generous-looking chest. She was wearing a skin-tight blue bodysuit that showed off her curves extremely well. She wore a cape that started on her shoulders, and ended below her behind. Claire's HGSS outfit. I watched as she jumped down, and I had to turn away again with a blush as the rain had caused her already tight outfit seem tighter. I watched as her Dragonite cooed into her touch as she rubbed his snout. I couldn't help but smile at the affectionate display, and gulped as she turned to me with those beautiful blue eyes. Shit, quit staring at her like this, Naruto. You never stared, not even when Leaf tried so hard to bed you before she left. I thought while shaking my head. Hello there. I am sorry for yelling at you, but I didn't want Dragonite here crash into you. My name is Claire, what is yours? She said while smiling and putting her hand out. I grabbed it and shook it while chuckling. It's okay, I didn't expect a Dragonite to fly here, even in this storm. The name's Naruto, Naruto Ketchum. I said smiling up at her. Hee hee, yeah, I didn't think the storm was going to get this bad. What are you doing out anyway? I noticed Pewter just seemed like a ghost time due to the storm. Claire asked. Yeah, same actually, me. Just came out of Viridian Forest. I said with a stern face. I hope Nurse Joy has the power and time to check Doduo's leg. I thought. You just came out of Viridian. Are you a trainer? I figured you all would be at Indigo for the league. She said with a raised eyebrow as Dragonite nodded its head. Yeah, but I just started yesterday. I could have left earlier when the usual crowd does, but my adopted brother last year, so I stayed behind for a bit to make sure she wouldn't get too depressed when I left. I said a matter of fact. I see. I bet she is lucky to have you. Coming from that way, I assume you came from Pallet. She said looking down to me. Yes ma'am, I wasn't born there, but my adopted mother got me a few months after I was born. I said smiling at the memory. I see, I know this might seem rude. Do you know who your biological parents were? I was adopted myself and I always wondered who they were till I found the answer. She said with a sad smile. My smile dropped and some anger entered my veins, but I reined it in and smiled at her. Yeah, I know who they are. But they can be dead for all I care. They got rid of me because I wasn't a daughter. They had 16 years to try and at least know me. But as soon as I get near my journey, they start asking Professor Oak about me. I can care less about them in all honesty. I said with a stoic face, which caused Claire to flinch a bit. SSS, sorry for asking. It was wrong, but I always wished I knew who mine were. All I remember was being left with Dragonite when she was a Dratini, isn't that right, girl? Claire said while looking to Dragonite. Drew, Dragonite said while nodding her head. No, it's okay. I am mostly over it, it's just I have all this resentment still bottled up. I don't think I can truly quit caring about them until I see them, and yell out all my frustrations at them. I said with a frown. Well, I hope they realize what they lost. Anywho, since you came from Pallet, I assume you started with one of the regional starters. Claire said, which caused me to shake my head negatively. No ma'am, I started with a Eevee. I was hoping for a Absol, but my biological sister called in a favor and had it sent to her. But I couldn't be happier with my Heim. I said with a blinding smile, which caused Claire's cheeks to flush a small bit. I see. Eevees are great Pokemon. They can evolve into anything. Ah, I know. Here you go. Think of it as an apology for bringing up sour memories. Claire said while pulling out an Everstone and handed it to me. This is a Everstone. It will not let your Eevee evolve until you are ready for it and at the time you want it to. Like daytime for a Sepin, and nighttime for Umbreon, it can even stop the elemental stones and mossy rock and icy rock evolutions too. She said while I couldn't help but stare at the rock in awe. Holy shit, a free Everstone. These things cost like 80,000 poke dollars. I said while taking it with trembling hands. Thanks. These are extremely rare right now, are you sure it's okay? These run for 80k in Kanto. I said and watched as she smiled at me while nodding her head. Yup, I don't need it anymore. My entire time is evolved and I could care less about the money. If it serves its purpose, it's good enough for me. She said and I couldn't help but smile and give her a hug which caused her to stiffen for a second, before relaxing and patting me on the back awkwardly. You said your name is Claire. And you have a Dragonite, would you be the Johto gym leader Claire? I said with hope in my eyes. Era. Why yes I am. This beautiful Dragonite is nicknamed Lily. I am the Blackthorn gym leader, why? She asked with a raised eyebrow. Before she could register I had a small handbook out and a pen looking at her with stars in my eyes. BB because I am a huge fan. You were in my top 5 of powerful female trainers. Plus I have seen you fight some of the others during the league's exhibition matches. I was stunned at how your Dragonite fought Lances to a draw. I said hoping she would give me an autograph. You foo-foo. Thank you. I am glad I have a fan. The only reason we beat Lance's Dragonite is because we have trained since we are from the same clan, and as he is my cousin. She said while giving me her autograph. Wow, that's awesome. May I ask why someone of your stature is in Pewter City? I asked hoping she would tell me. I am here actually due to the Pewter City Museum calling me. They got a fossil from the Kalos region and they wanted my help when they revive it, as it holds the fossil Pokemon Tyrant. After they study it they want me to take it as my own Pokemon. Lance turned it down as he didn't have the time to come get it. Claire said while smiling. Wow, a Tyrant, would it be too much to see it? I would love to get it scanned in my Pokédex. Professor Oak would freak when he sees it. I said while chuckling. Sure, it won't be for a few days, the storm is pushing them back, plus they want to go to MT Moon and see if they can find any fossils. I will ask them if you can join that expedition tomorrow morning. I assume since you are here, you are going to fight the gym. She said while looking towards me. Wow, I might be able to find a fossil. Yes ma'am. But it won't be for a few days or week at best. I want to train my Eevee and newest Pokemon. I said with a sagely nod. That makes great sense, and you will need it as the original leader is not here at the moment. The league has a replacement from what I heard doing its duties. What Pokemon do you have other than Eevee? She asked. I have a Doduo. I found it trapped in one of those claw traps. It decided to come with me after I rescued him. I need to get Nurse Joy to look at his leg in a few. I have a Oddish also, but it is going to go home to my mother. I promised I would catch her a grass type to help her with the garden. Oddish has a great move set, but is young and extremely shy and skittish. So I think my mom would be the perfect place for her. I said while smiling down at my 2 Pokeballs, which caused Claire to smile at me. Such a good son. I am sure she adores and appreciates you to death. You say you found a Doduo in a poacher's trap. I will call the league and have someone send a few ace trainers out to check the forest for more. She said while narrowing her eyes. Thank you Claire. I should get going though. I need to get Doduo checked and I want them both to meet my mom when I call her. I will hopefully see you later. I said while giving her a wave, and rushing into the center as she chuckled and waved back, before walked towards a hotel. Pokemon Center. I entered the center and looked around for Nurse Joy. I found her sitting at the reception center reading a magazine on Pokemon health. As I neared her I cleared my throat which made her jump for a second before standing and giving me a smile. Hello there, what can I do for you on this wet evening? She said to me smiling. Nurse Joy, I found this Doduo in Viridian Forest, and he got his leg caught in a poacher's trap. Can you look at it and make sure it's okay? I sprayed it and bandaged it, but I am not a professional. I said and watched as she got up and called Chansey to come to the medical room as she grabbed Doduo's Pokeball and went in. After a half hour, she came back out with Doduo walking beside her with some new bandages on his leg. When Doduo saw me he squawked his name and jogged over to me, before pecking me on the head twice affectionately. I raised my hands and started to rub both of their heads, and watched as they rubbed into it happily. Your Doduo will be just fine. I wouldn't let him run full speed for a few days, but other than that, he is okay. She said with a smile while handing me the Pokeball. Thank you Nurse Joy. Would it be possible to get a room if one is available and sign up for the league next year? I said while following Nurse Joy to the station. Of course, how many days? And I will need your Pokédex. She said to me. 3 for now please, and here you go. I said handing her my Pokédex. After a few moments, she handed me my Pokédex back, and a card key for the room. Here you go. You were registered for the Indigo League, I am sure you know the rules. And here is your card key, it is for room 12. It is the first door on the right, she said while smiling. Thank you. Do you know if a convenience or grocery store is open? I need to grab some food. I asked, hoping they were all open still. I will call around. Come back up here in 5, okay? Nurse Joy said while smiling still. I bowed to her while saying, thank you very much, Nurse Joy, and walked away heading to the video phones. After sitting down and releasing Haim, an Oddish who jumped in my lap, I dialed the house number, and waited for Mom to pick up. After a minute, I watched as Mom picked up the phone and smiled as she saw me. Ah, Naruto, dear, I see that you finally made it to Pewter City, Mom said to me while smiling. Yeah, I have 2 Pokemon I want you to meet. Mom, this is Oddish and Doduo, I said while raising Oddish up so she can see my mom, and pointed behind me to Doduo, who just opened its mouth and said its name. I saw my mom squeal and gush at how cute both Doduo and Oddish were, which caused Haim to whine and thump her tail on the ground sadly. Shish, Haim, I will brush your fur later to make up for it, I said, making Haim squeal and lay down. Oh, honey, they are just so cute. Especially Oddish. But how did you meet a Doduo? I thought they were only in the safari zone, Mom said while tilting her head. So I told her how I meet Doduo, and how after I set it free it decided to join me. And how I walked around the entire forest almost giving up before Doduo led me to an area with Oddish, Badoo, and Shroomish. And with Oddish's consent I told her how, while she is powerful and young, she is extremely shy and skittish, due to her parents being either captured or gone. I watched as Mom became misty-eyed, and promised to take care of Oddish like her own, which caused Oddish to sway back and forth happy. Alright, Mom, I am going to send her over. I know Professor Oak told you how it works, so she should show up in a minute, I said while returning Oddish to her ball, and putting it in the transportation slot of the phone. I put in the home number, and hit send and watched as it was teleported away, and a minute later I heard a ding on Mom's side indicating she got it. I have here, dear. Oh, thank you, thank you. I will let you go for now, dear. I know you want a shower and to change clothes. I will hear from you in the morning. Love you, she said before hanging up. After returning both Haim and Doduo, I walked back up to the station and Nurse Joy told me the convenience store was the only thing open right now, so with a quick thank you I headed out. After a few minutes, I found the store and walked in to see Claire looking around also. After chuckling I decided not to bother her and go about my business. After choosing to buy a few cups of ramen, some jerky for Haim, a bag of assorted berries for Doduo, I headed up to the register to pay. After I finished paying, I turned around and saw Claire waving at me while walking up. UFU, so we meet again, Naruto, she said while smiling. Yup, I see you are also stuck to buying dinner from here, huh? I said while looking at her food choices, which caused her to blush. Why yeah, I censored at cooking. Ha ha ha, what about you? She said while blushing in embarrassment. I am not bad at it. Just tired. I plan to feed Haim and Doduo, eat, shower, and sleep, I said, looking forward to my sleep. Yeah, I plan to do the same. I will see you at the center tomorrow morning so we can head over to the museum, okay? She said while I nodded and waved goodbye to her while wishing her a good night. After making it back to the center, I went into the room and proceeded to heat up my ramen while making food for both Haim and Doduo. After I finished I let them both out of their Pokeball. I chuckled as they both devoured their food and laid down on the floor all sleepy. Haim, you are getting a bath. Doduo, I will open their door behind us, as there is an extra shower for bigger Pokemon. Which made Haim whine, and Doduo nod happy. After giving Haim a quick bath, and brushing her fur as I blow-dried it, I grabbed a nice long shower that took over an hour. After I got out I put on some orange pajama bottoms, and an orange t-shirt and hit the hay. Night, Haim, Doduo, I said while yawning. Vui, Evui, Haim said. Duo, Doduo said also while yawning. I placed Haim on my chest and rubbed her fur while letting my eyes close, while muttering them good night one more time, before finally succumbing to the darkness. I woke up with a start. The reason: 2 mischievous Pokemon. Haim was tickling my nose with her tail, and Doduo was pecking me with both beaks. I am up. Arceus. Meanies. I said while puffing my cheeks up and looking away. I felt Eevee rubbing her head into my abdomen, and Doduo rubbing its dual heads into my chest. Vui. Vui. Duo. Fine. I can't stay mad at you two. I swear, you two are a perfect team. Sigh. Give me a second and I will give you food. I said and watched as Eevee sat on her hind legs, and Doduo went still while in a military stance. After getting up and stretching, I filled both their bowls up with Pokemon food and gave them each an assortment of berries I had packed away that Mom grew. I gave them some water, before I went over and threw a ramen cup in the microwave with water, while I used the bathroom. After coming back out and starting to eat my ramen, I looked at some deals in a brochure I got in the convenience store last night. It was for the department store in Celadon. I frowned as I saw the prices on all the laptops and tablets. Sigh. I really want a laptop or tablet, but they are just as expensive as a SSN ticket. I said, making both Eevee and Doduo tilting their heads to the side. I sighed and decided to explain to them. You see, if I got a laptop I could look up how to train you guys certain moves through videos the E4, Frontier Brains, and other league reps post on their site. Right now, I have nothing that can show the videos, and to rent them is expensive. It's free if you buy a league registered laptop or tablet. But they run like 40,000 poke dollars. I said with a frown. I looked and saw both Eevee and Doduo get depressed, and I leaned down to rub both of their heads, and Doduo's extra one. Don't get down. It will take a while, and odd jobs along with battling, but we should be able to get one. If we make it top 32 in the league, they pay each trainer 50k each. So all we gotta do is save up, and if we feel ready, try the league next year, or maybe hit up the Orange Islands. I heard they had a league, and they give you 120k if you reach the champion. I said while thinking up ways to make the money, and send some to Mom so she could buy better gardening supplies and seeds. Oh well, you two relax for a bit, I am going to grab a shower and get dressed. I want you two to meet someone. Plus we are going for a small expedition today, so I might let you two out if they allow it. I said while grabbing my clothes and walking into the shower, leaving them both confused. After a good 20-minute shower I walked out in faded blue jeans, my trusty boots I use when I work in Mom's garden, a orange tank top as it's supposed to be in the mid-50s, and a orange hoodie. After grabbing my bag and packing up stuff, who knows? I might need it, I thought while throwing it on. I placed Haim in my hood and waited for her to get comfortable. And walked out my room, making sure I had my Pokédex and card key before closing it. As we were walking down the hall towards the main hall, I looked at my Poke Nav and checked the time, 8:49 a.m. We might be early. Doduo, Haim. If she is not here, we can take a small jog around Pewter if you want. I plan to start training you two in the next few days. We won't get stronger unless we put in the work. So what do you two say? I said and smiled as I heard both Eevee and Doduo say their names in happiness. Doduo, I will think of a name for you soon, my mind is drawing blanks right now. Okay. I said and saw Doduo nod both heads in happiness. As we entered the main hall, I stopped frozen and my breath caught in my throat. Due to the woman in front of me, it was Claire, but she wasn't wearing her normal attire. No, she was wearing tight blue jeans that showed off her lower body extremely well. She wore a turtleneck that was rather tight on her body, as you could see every curve imaginable. She covered it with a beautiful blue jacket that was unzipped and dual blue gloves on her hands. Behind her was Lily, her Dragonite, and on her head was a small blue Pokemon that looked like a cloud, as its body was blue, but was covered in white that looked like cotton. I recognized it as a Swablu, as they sometimes migrate into Viridian Forest. Good morning Claire, Lily, and who are you? You sure are a cute little one. I said while reaching up and rubbing the underside of Swablu's jaw, which made it say its name happily in what sounded like a melody. Good morning Naruto. I see your Doduo is looking fine, where is your Eevee? And yes, this one is named Melody, she is my youngest Pokemon. I have been trying to get Altaria to finish my team for a year now. But I never had time to either come to Viridian when they migrated here, or go to Hoenn and catch one. So Professor Elm got a favor from Professor Birch, who happened to have one. One of his trainers Altaria had an egg and wanted to find it a good home. So when they were told the Blackthorn gym leader wanted one, she gladly gave it to me. I offered her money, but she declined. Claire said while rubbing Melody's head. I see. Yes, Doduo's leg is pretty much healed, he is not allowed to run full speed right now. As for Haim, probably asleep in my hood, look. I said while turning around, and I could hear a faint squeal from what I assume was Claire as she looked at Haim. It is nice to meet you, Melody. I plan to catch either a Swablu or Bagon in Hoenn someday. I was hoping to catch them in Viridian, but the League said they all migrated back a few weeks ago due to trackers. I said while rubbing her head. Blue, Swa. She is just the cutest thing, Naruto. If you want a Swablu, I can ask Professor Birch to send Professor Oka Egg. I have helped him a few times when a wild salamence was on the loose. I heard Claire say. No thanks. I appreciate the offer and favor, but I want it to be my own capture. I said, and watched as she nodded in understanding. Okay, are you ready for a Tyrant meeting and a hopeful successful dig in MT? Moon, Claire asked me as I was starting to jump up and down. You bet, I can't wait to meet Tyrant. I would die in shock if I could dig up either old amber, sail fossil, skull fossil, or root fossil. But the odds of that are 1 in a billion, I bet. I said, hoping I got that lucky. Who knows? I heard there was a Aerodactyl found alive earlier in the year, was at some fossil dig in Kanto. They have it in an enclosed environment for now, studying it. I am sure you can find something. Claire said, putting her hand on my shoulder, which made me blush. Yeah, you mind if I take pictures? I want to show my mom and Professor Oak, while Mom will believe. Professor Oak might be skeptical, I said, hoping it was all right. We shall ask the researchers and Tyrant if it isn't aggressive. She said, and we started walking out the doors, and towards the museum. Pewter Museum. Along the way, Swablu flew off Claire's head and landed on mine while humming a small song, which shocked Claire for a minute before smirking. I felt Haim getting jealous from me petting Swablu and Doduo, but ignoring her, so she kept moving her tail over my neck, which caused me to keep blushing as it was my weak point. Damn you, Haim. I shall get you for this, I thought while cackling evilly on the inside. After a few minutes, we made it to the museum and returned our Pokemon as it was the rules. After we made it inside, we met with head researcher Brandon and were led inside the area Tyrant was in. After we got inside, I couldn't help but look, as there weren't just one Tyrant. No, there was 2 Tyrants. And one was shiny. How is that possible? I thought, wanting to run up to it and look it over. Randon. How is a shiny extinct Pokemon possible? Wouldn't it have to be shiny when it was alive? I asked, wondering. Researchers said it was impossible years ago. We believe she was a shiny when she was alive, as it makes no other sense than that. We always believed that part of the DNA would vanish once they died out. Guess not, Brandon, the head researcher, said. I looked at the shiny Tyrant and couldn't help but be in awe. Instead of the brown the other one was. This one was blue. Wait a second. Let me guess. The shiny one is Claire's, I said, which caused Brandon and Claire to choke, before Brandon looked at me with wide eyes. How did you figure it out? He said with narrowed eyes. I just pointed at it and said simply, blue, which caused Claire to blush up a storm. The head researcher just started howling in laughter, while rolling on the floor, which made Claire blush more. After a few minutes, he let us go up to the Tyrants but told us to be careful as they could be aggressive if they don't like you. I watched as both Treants watched us carefully, before the shiny one ran towards Claire. As I saw Claire about to call out Lily, the shiny Tyrant stopped before looking at her clothes, which confused Claire to no end. It's because it's blue. I think she likes them as they reminded of her, I said, making Claire sigh and nod. After a few minutes, the shiny Tyrant nuzzled into Claire's hand before crooning happily. I smiled, and decided to look at the other Tyrant, who was looking at me with narrowed eyes, and charged. Well shit, I said before dodging. I immediately jumped again, as he launched a Dragon Pulse and hit where I was standing seconds before. As I was jumping around and dodging, the shiny Tyrant hit the regular one with a rock head and knocked it out, before nuzzling into Claire's hand again. Why did she do that? I said, confused, but watched as Claire smirked and said she listened to me. I see. Well damn, I meet a Tyrant, and it tries to kill me, Yay, I said before I felt a nuzzling in my stomach. I looked down and saw the shiny one eye smiling at me. Why hello there girl, I must say you are extremely beautiful. Blue suits you really well if I do say so myself. I said while rubbing the top of her mouth, and watched as she crooned in happiness while I smiling. I watched as some researchers returned the regular Tyrant to a Pokeball and walked off. I couldn't help but frown and wonder what they are going to do with it. After a few minutes of rubbing Tyrant's face, I let her go back to Claire as Brandon walked in. I see she listens to you already. That's great, as she is ready to leave if you would like to take her with you, Claire. Brandon said as both of us looked at Claire and Tyrant. Would you like to come with me, Tyrant? Claire said, and I chuckled as I saw Tyrant jump up and down while nodding her head. So Brandon handed her the ball, and Claire returned her for now, much to Tyrant's happiness. Well, now that is settled. You two ready for a moon exploration? We found a few dome fossils a few months ago, but today we are going deeper in the mountain. Brandon said, and I couldn't help but jump up and down. After gathering everything we would need, pickaxes, shovels, Pokemon food for the wild Pokemon, bucket, radios, we all gathered in an electric-powered van, and set off towards moon. Excuse me, Brandon, but what fossils are possible to be in moon? I asked, hoping it would be some very rare ones. Nobody is really sure. We, the scientists and such, believe we were all one giant landmass a long time ago, but due to some events, we broke apart. So we theorize any fossil could be in moon. Brandon said, and I could only think of the possibilities. Theoretically, if I find one, would I be able to keep it? I would freak out and die of happiness if I found a sail or root fossil. I said, hoping they would allow me to keep it. Only if the revived Pokemon likes you. If not, we keep it until a trainer comes through and they bond. Brandon said to me in a serious tone, and all I could do was nod. I turned around and stared out the window as we were going down the rocky path towards moon. I would see the occasional Sandshrew, Geodude, Ekans, Nidorans. But I saw a few Rhyhorn, and Onyx on top of the rocks. After a good 30 minutes, the van stopped, which told us we have arrived at our destination. Mount Moon. After getting everyone off the van, and grabbing all of our equipment, we started to get into two-man groups. I was stuck with Claire, not that I was sad about it, and set off into the mountain. After about 20 minutes, me and Claire decided to go down a makeshift ladder that led deeper into the mountain. After we got to the bottom, we decided to make a game plan. So Naruto, do you want to start over here? Or go farther in? If anything stronger than normal pops up, I will take care of it. I know you aren't weak, but you have only been on your journey for what? 3 to 4 days, Claire said to me. I frowned and looked at her. We can start wherever, and I know you can take whatever shows up. About 4 days total. I won't risk my Pokemon getting hurt if I know it is a futile fight. I said, making Claire nod. Alright, let's go a bit farther down. It looks like this part of the mountain hasn't been touched much. Might get lucky, Claire said, and we set off. After a few minutes we arrived at the back side of this floor, and in front of us was a giant wall. It was around 30 feet long, and 15 feet high. This might be good. I am worried if we cause too much damage, it could collapse. I said, making Claire nod. Yes, I will bring out Lily, and you bring out Eevee. She has great ears, can help us know if it's going to collapse. Claire said, and I nodded as we both released our Pokemon. Drew, Vui, both Lily and Haim said while looking around. I bent down to my knees and started to rub Haim's fur, and watched as she purred in pleasure. Hey girl, I need you to keep your ears sharp. We are going to start digging, and stuff could start cracking and breaking, and then bam. Collapse, so let me know if you hear anything. I said to Haim and watched as she nodded and stared intently at the wall. Time skip. 30 minutes. In the last 30 minutes, we have found a fossilized leaf. I think it was from a sunkern. I was getting depressed and just hammering away, until I heard an audible clunk at the sound of hitting something hard, and then I heard a loud thud and what sound of floor giving away. So I looked down and gasped at what I saw. Holy shit, Claire, I just hit a jackpot. No clue what fossils these are, I said, and watched as Claire came over with wide eyes also. I thought you were playing when you said you had extreme bouts of luck on the way here. she said while smiling at me. Haha, I told you, it only comes in spurts though, so this will probably be the only fossils we see. I said while looking down at the 5 fossils on the floor. Stay right here, I am going to get Brandon. He will let us know what they are, Claire said as she jogged away with Lily following behind her. I leaned down to Haim and rubbed her ears. Hee hee, we found some fossils, girl. I hope one of them is something unique, maybe we can get a third teammate today, I said and watched as she wagged her tail happily. Vooey. After a few minutes, Claire, Brandon, Lily, and the rest of the researchers came back down and all went wide-eyed at the fossils. Ah ha ha, my boy, you sure are lucky, we might see one every few months, but 5. You must be blessed, Brandon said while laughing. I watched as he came over and started to dust them off and examine them while whistling a tune. After 10 minutes he stands up and puts them in a bucket, before turning towards us. Well, one is a helix, one is a claw, 2 are armor, and the last one is plume, he said, and everyone whistled. So a Omanite, Anorith, 2 Shieldon, and a Archon. Ah, I said while whining at not finding either a Kabuto, a Mora, or Lileep. Sorry Naruto, I know it's not one you want, but, still you are very lucky to find 5 of them, Brandon said while patting my head. Yeah, who knows, I might find one soon. There is caves and stuff all around Kanto. I might get lucky, I said while trying to cheer myself up. I went back to my spot and started to pack up my stuff, as they decided to quit as they found a decent haul due to my fossil finding. We all loaded back up in the van and came back to Pewter City Museum. After a few hours of talking, studying, and planning about the fossil revival, I decided to turn in for the night and headed back to the Pokemon Center as Claire followed me. I am sorry you didn't find one, Naruto, Claire said while frowning. Nah, it's okay, the fact I found one was enough, who knows. I might find one in another region, so I am not too sad. I guess a bit greedy, but who isn't, I said while sighing. Yeah, anyone would love to get their hands on an extinct Pokemon. I can understand your sadness at not finding one you wanted, but you should at least check in on them before you leave Pewter. Who knows, you might fall in love with one. Anyway, good night Naruto, Claire said before waving goodbye and walking away. Yeah, who knows, I said while walking into the center, and decided to call and talk to Mom. I spent the next hour talking about how I went fossil hunting, saw a Tyrant, showed her the pictures of the shiny one and had to plug my ears due to her squealing, and then told her about Claire, which I regret as she kept teasing me about the mysterious beauty. After hanging up after saying goodnight, I went to the room and fed both Haim and Doduo before grabbing a shower. After getting done with my nightly routine, I decided to look up moves for both of them. Alright Haim, Doduo, tomorrow we start training. We need to see what moves you can learn, and then build a training strategy around it, I said as they both nodded their heads. I pulled out the Pokédex and started to go through it, looking and writing down moves and the theories of teaching them to use it even if it was a TM move. After getting done, I put my Pokédex away and turned to them. Okay, I have the TM for Dig and Double Team, they both can be learned a maximum of 6 times. Sadly only Eevee can use it at the moment, but I plan to teach you both Double Team, I said staring at them, making them nod. As for Doduo, I am not sure what to teach you. You know, try attack which will do decent damage at least due to the ice element. Maybe work up, Swift, and Steel Wing even though I don't know how it will work. Maybe instead of wings, it uses your feet or beaks instead, I said making Doduo confused also about how it would learn Steel Wing. Now for you Haim, Dig will be our main priority, but I will also teach you Iron Tail and either headbutt or work up. Now let's get some sleep, we start early in the morning, I said making both Haim and Doduo nod. I laid down and put Haim on my lap and watched as Doduo got comfortable in the corner and wished them a good night and fell asleep. XXXXXX next morning XXXXXX. After waking up, feeding both Haim and Doduo, I threw on some gym shorts and a tank top, while grabbing my sneakers and decided to run while they trained. Because a wise man once said a true bond is formed when both trainer and Pokemon train together. So that made me decide to run and maybe do some push-ups. At least it will keep me in shape, some of the routes in the future will be dangerous. I said with a small frown. I led Haim and Doduo to the training ground out back after telling Nurse Joy in case she hears some loud sounds. After me, Haim, and Doduo did stretches, I gave out orders on what to do. Okay, first off, endurance. We are going to run for a while, until I say stop. If we do this it will increase our stamina, which means we can fight longer. Okay, go, I said and took off in a jog. I was pretty much last, as Haim was a few inches in front of me while wagging her tail playfully, and Doduo was running ahead of us with his other head towards us giving us a smirk. Show-offs, I muttered continuing to run. After an hour and a half of jogging, I was laid out on the ground gasping for air, like a Magikarp on land. Dear Arceus, I am going to die, I can feel my heart in my feet. Haim, it looks like this is the end, I said while playfully reaching for the light. Vooey, Haim said while slapping me with her tail. Oi, abuse much, I muttered and made Haim roll around laughing, while rolling my eyes. After a few minutes, I pushed myself up and felt my legs want to give away as they were jelly. I cleared my throat and decided to move on to the next phase. Alright, you should know the basics already of Double Team as I used the TM on the Pokeball this morning, so I want you to use it. I want you two to train to use it faster, and to create more copies. The goal is 5 for now, so once you get it, let me know. I will be doing some push-ups. I said and clapped my hands together and sent them off. As I was doing push-ups, I was thinking on how to train Doduo in Steel Wing. I don't have a TM, so how do I learn it? Maybe Claire's Dragonite or Swablu knows it. I thought before shaking my head. No, I shouldn't bother a gym leader, that is cheating. Especially for the first gym. I thought while doing push-ups. As I was doing them, I felt a peck on the head and a tail to the face, which caused me to lose balance and fall. I see you both hit the goal. Okay, do the same but the goal is 15. I groaned while telling them what to do, and watched them rush off. After another 30 minutes they came back but panting this time. Good job. We shall take a lunch break, the restart. I said while pulling out their food and water while giving them each a special treat. Jerky for Haim, and berries for Doduo. While they ate, I pulled out my sandwich which was a BLT sub from the cafeteria and a water. As I downed it, I decided to work on Haim's dig, and Doduo work up. After putting up the dishes and throwing my trash away, I got into a thinking pose. Alright Haim, you know how to dig. I guess what we need to do is, work on the speed it takes to dig and pop up, and then the ability to sense where your opponent is through vibrations or sound I guess. And then the ability to make multiple tunnels in case we needed it to collapse. So go start having fun in the dirt, Arceus knows you love it. When you feel like you mastered your speed for it, we shall move on to the next step. I said and sent her off with a nod. Alright Doduo, we shall try work up for now. Supposedly it works like adrenaline, so you have to get pumped up for a fight. Try thinking of fighting the strongest Pokemon you can think of, and when you get that feeling let it spread through your body. It should cause a glow or steam. It depends on the Pokemon. I said and watched as Doduo started the attempts. I smiled as I could see him doing it, but realized it would take too long for now to use in battle. So I had him work on making it natural, until it was like second nature. I told Doduo I expected him to take a break as adrenaline can tire you out faster, as soon as the feeling is gone it leaves you dizzy. So I kept watch, making sure he didn't pass out. After an hour, I felt Haim nudge against me. I looked down and sighed as her fur was dirty, dirt and mud were everywhere. Someone is getting a bath tonight, I said and watched as she squealed in delight. Alright Haim, start digging, and I will stomp the ground while walking. I want you to focus on my movement and follow me as fast as you can, and then pop up a bit in front of me. Okay. I said and watched her nod before digging underground. I started stomping around the ground for a few minutes, before coming to a complete stop. Not even a second later, Haim popped out the ground a few feet in front of me while looking around. Great job girl, now let's try it again, but you need to come up at full speed right under me. I said and watched as she nodded hesitantly. I did the exact same thing, and felt myself get thrown a few feet in the air as Eevee came out like a rocket. As I landed on my back, I heard Haim squeal her name in worry and rushed over to me. I groaned and sat up, and a dirty little Evie was looking me over in worry. I couldn't help but chuckle while rubbing her dirty fur. It's okay, girl. I knew it would happen, but it needed to be done, or you would never get dig down correctly. Now I want you making a few tunnels. Not too many as, well, I don't have the money to repair this field, so never mind. We will work on that later, I said while frowning at Evie. Vooey. Now. Let's start Iron Tail. This might take the longest. Only way I know how to explain it is, think about hardening your tail with the energy, then swing it with force. It is supposed to be like iron. Just try it for now. Think about coating your tail with energy first. Once you get that done, do some test swings to dial it in. Then concentrate on making it harder, then do like what we did on Route 1. Flip and swing. If you fail, we just keep trying. Take a break though when you get tired. I don't want you or Doduo to push yourself to exhaustion, I said while rubbing her head. Vooey, vooey, she said while nodding and running off. I went over to check on Doduo, and saw him still working on workup, so I went back to watching him for the next few hours. And so we did that. For then next few days. Get up, eat, train, sleep, we did that for 5 days, while speaking to Claire for a bit each day. She had to leave as a few challengers showed up at Blackthorn, but gave me her poke nav number and smiled at me while saying keep in touch. Before flying away, while leaving me with a raised eyebrow. Weird. Was the only thing I could say. But on the 6th day, the day Heim finally mastered Dig, and Doduo almost mastering Steel Wing, I decided to challenge the pewter gym. So I grabbed both Pokeballs and walked to the giant stone-looking gym. Pewter gym. I took a deep breath while trying to calm myself, and pushed the double doors open and headed in. As soon as I walked in I was bathed in darkness, until a light came on which showed a figure standing on a giant rock, while saying in a creepy voice. So who dares challenge Pewter Gym? I sighed and ran my hand through my hair. I do. Naruto Ketchum, of Pallet Town, I said with as much confidence I could muster, which wasn't much as I was extremely nervous. I see. Well, let's begin, shall we? The mystery person said with a smirk. I took a deep breath while trying to calm myself, and pushed the double doors open and headed in. As soon as I walked in I was bathed in darkness, until a light came on which showed a figure standing on a giant rock, while saying in a creepy voice. So who dares challenge Pewter Gym? I sighed and ran my hand through my hair. I do. Naruto Ketchum, of Pallet Town, I said with as much confidence I could muster, which wasn't much as I was extremely nervous. I see. Well, let's begin, shall we? The mystery person said with a smirk. Present. The lights came on and in front of me was a kid around my age. He was a few inches shorter than me as I was 5 feet 9, he had spiky brown hair, closed eyes, and what appeared to be 2 little lines under each eye as birthmarks. He was wearing green polo, and blue jeans that covered green tennis shoes. Name's Forrest. Do you agree to 2-on-2? It will be challenger substitution only. Is that fine? Forrest asked me. Sure, I agree. Choose your first Pokemon, Forrest, I said making him smirk. All right, go, Rhyhorn, Forrest yelled releasing his Rhyhorn. Rhyhorn materialized while landing on the ground, causing a mini earthquake due to the force. It shook its head while rubbing its front right claw in the ground. Horn, it yelled while stomping its clawed feet on the ground. Shit, if he using something as his first, he has something even more troublesome. I guess it's all or nothing, I thought to myself while drawing Doduo's Pokeball. Striker, stand by, I said while throwing Doduo's Pokeball in the air and grabbed it as it flew back as Striker materialized for battle. He landed on both legs, and looked around with both heads while tilting them to all kinds of angles while chirping its name. Duo, Striker said before setting its eyes on Rhyhorn, instantly narrowing it as it recognized its enemy. You sure? A flying type, Forrest said while raising his eyebrows, while Rhyhorn just snorted in laughter. Yeah, I only just started so. If I lose, it means I need to go back to the drawing board, I said while smirking as Doduo squawked its name angrily. I just hope this thing is as slow as it should be. Luckily they can't learn rock polish. But that don't mean shit if it knows magnitude, or quake, hopefully double team combos will help. I thought. All right if you say so. Rhyhorn. Bulldoze. Forrest yelled and I watched as Rhyhorn started charging towards Doduo. Striker. Quick attack into double team. I yelled and watched as Doduo squawked and took off at a fast pace. He created 10 copies of himself and continued towards Rhyhorn. Rhyhorn. Stop and use magnitude. Forrest yelled and I cursed up a storm internally as Rhyhorn stopped and jumped into the arm before landing. Striker. Jump now. Try attack barrage. I yelled and hoped Doduo could shake off most of the damage. I watched as he jumped a few feet in the air before launching try attack. More like dual attack as I had him only launch fire and ice parts of it. Rhyhorn. Are you okay? Forrest yelled while getting a grunt from Rhyhorn. Good. Shockwave. Forrest said with a smirk. Shit, shit, shit. I cursed internally as it would hit no matter what. Aha. I got it. Doduo. Steel wing. Into the ground. I said hoping it worked like I thought. Steel wing. You joking right? What? Forrest said before yelling wide-eyed, as Doduo instead of steel wing stuck both beaks into the ground. I prayed it worked, as Shockwave hit him. After a few seconds he stood back up, pulling his beaks out of the ground while grunting in pain but otherwise okay. Shit, that was close. Quick attack and steel wing combo. I said and watched as Doduo closed in and pecked Rhyhorn several times at fast speeds with its version of steel wing. Not so fast. Rhyhorn. Shockwave full power. Forrest yelled. Rhyhorn started clawing a soft part of the ground. Is that carpet? Shit. Static electricity. Striker. Double team try barrage, now. I yelled urgently, and watched as Doduo nodded and shot try attacks constantly towards Rhyhorn as he released Shockwave. The ensuing attacks exploded and threw both Pokemon back. After the smoke cleared, Rhyhorn was barely standing while breathing hard in pain. While Striker was out cold due to the shockwave hitting him. Damn, my stupidity cost Striker his fight. I didn't expect a shockwave Rhyhorn, I thought, frowning while drawing my Pokeball. Doduo is unable to battle. Rhyhorn is the winner. Challenger, choose your last Pokemon. The referee said. Striker. Return. I said while returning Striker to his Pokeball. I am sorry buddy, I should have planned for that. It totally caught me by surprise. I will make it up to you later. I said while putting his Pokeball back on my belt with a frown. I forfeit Rhyhorn. He wouldn't survive but maybe a few more attacks. Forrest said while returning his Rhyhorn, who grunted. Okay. Forrest forfeits Rhyhorn. Choose your last Pokemon. The referee said while looking towards us both. I hope you are ready, Naruto. 'Cause this next Pokemon will rock you. Graveler. Go. Forrest yelled while releasing a Graveler. Graveler looked like a giant boulder, but it had eyes, a mouth, 2 feet, and 4 arms. It smirked and looked at me while flexing its top 2 arms. Graw. Welp, if I am going to lose, I might as well go down fighting. Heim, I choose you. I yelled while throwing out Heim's Pokeball, as I didn't want to give away what she was. I need an advantage, I thought. I watched as my cutest little Eevee materialized while looking around while shaking her fur out, with her tail wagging happily. She censored her head to the side as she was Graveler in front of her. Vooey, yes girl, this is our opponent, let's win this one, okay. I said while having Eevee nod her head at me before getting into a fighting position. Alright, Forrest's Graveler versus Naruto's Eevee. Begin, the referee yelled. Graveler, roll out. Forrest yelled. I watched as it curled up and shot off at a high speed. Heim, double team, I said while watching her nod, and make 12 copies of herself in a circle. Graveler, don't stop, crush M, Forrest yelled as Graveler angled coming in an arc. Heim, wait for it, then Iron Tail the underside and send him in the air. I yelled and watched as Eevee jumped to the side and hit the bottom of Graveler with Iron Tail, which sent it in the air. Dig, now. I yelled and watched as all 12 Eevees used dig. Cuckoo. Graveler, come down with Earthquake. Forrest yelled while smirking. Yufufu. Heim, come up an Iron Tail. I said smirking, which confused Forrest. What do you? Forrest started to say as he watched Eevee jumped up from a hole as Graveler was landing using Earthquake, which caused his area to cave into a crater, making him get stuck. I watched as Haim did continuous front flips as she was falling into the crater where Graveler was stuck, and hit him on the head, effectively making it give way again and knocking Graveler out. I smiled and jumped up and down as Haim jumped out of the crater and ran towards me while jumping into my arms, as the referee raised his hands and yelled, "Graveler is unable to fight. Eevee and Naruto of Palette, win." He yelled, making me scream and swing Haim around in circles. "We did it, girl. Our first gym fight. We did it," I yelled while swinging her in circles as she laughed. "Vooey, vooey, Eve, vooey," Haim squealed while I was swinging her. I let her down and pet her on the head, as Forrest walked over after returning Graveler. He held out his hand while smiling down at me. "Great job. That was a good fight. You deserved it," Forrest said as I smiled and shook his head. "Thanks. I was worried when Rhyhorn used Shockwave," I said, sighing. "Haha. Yeah, Rhyhorn was my starter. Graveler is my brother's Pokemon he let stay behind to help with the gym, so it's the strongest at the moment," he said while rubbing his head sheepishly. "Still, you did a great job, man. I was panicking the whole fight," I said while chuckling. "Yeah, anyway, here. This is the Boulder badge. It signifies you beat the Pewter Gym. You get TM39, which is Rock Tomb, and 5,000 Pokédollars at the front. So please follow me," Forrest said while leading the way. I couldn't help but drool. Shit. 5K, I can eat actual restaurant food. Ooh man, I thought while wiping my face of drool. After getting to the entrance, he gave me a small brown disc that had TM39 on it. I thanked him while putting it in my pocket, while he swiped my Pokédex through a ATM machine thing which sent the money to my account. After hearing a ding on my Pokegear and checking it as it was an email saying I had a deposit, Forrest gave me my Pokédex back, while wishing me luck on my journey as he needed to go tend to his siblings while he has his dad heal his Pokemon. I waved goodbye to him, and headed back to the center as I needed to get both Haim and Striker healed and get ready to check out, as I could move on today. After giving both of their Pokeballs to Nurse Joy for healing, I went to get my bag and card key as she said it would be 5 to 10 minutes. After making sure everything was packed, I grabbed my trash bag and locked the door before walking out. I threw my garbage bag in a bin, and headed to the reception area. After waiting a few minutes, my name was called, so I went up and grabbed my Pokeballs while giving her the card key, while thanking her for the hospitality. She smiled and wished me luck and safety on my journey, which I returned in kind and walked outdoors. After getting outside, I released both Haim and Striker. I rubbed both of Striker's heads and thanked him for fighting valiantly, which he took kindly as he pecked me twice, before rubbing his head in my stomach. After giving him affection, I grabbed Haim and gave her a kiss on her head, and placed her Striker's back. I rubbed them both again, before smirking at them. They looked at me with tilted heads. For fighting valiantly today, let's hit up a restaurant here that allows Pokemon. My treat, I said, which made them both say their names while nodding their heads vigorously. After looking around for 15 minutes, we found a diner that served pokefood and went in and sat down. After a few minutes, a waitress came up and asked for my and my Pokemon orders. Yes, can I get a meatloaf sandwich, double fries, meatball sub on wheat bread, a side of onion rings, and a Sprite. For Eevee, I would like some of the Tauros jerky and water. For Doduo, give me the berry attack salad, and water, please, I said, smiling as she nodded her head happily at the amount of money I would spend. Right away, sir, she said before skipping off to the back. Cuckoo, I hope you both are hungry, 'cause I sure am, man. Actual food, I can't wait, I said, drooling like a maniac, which made both Haim and Striker sweat drop. After 20 minutes, 3 servers came out with all my food, which caused other customers to sweat drop at it all. After giving Haim and Striker their food, I devoured mine like a Snorlax. I was tempted to order more, but I already knew the bill would be high. After smiling and waiting for both of them to finish, the waitress handed me the bill and I cried on the inside. The total was 2,948 Pokédollars, damn you stomach, I yelled while crying internally. After paying the bill and sighing as I could swear I heard my bank account cry, I returned Striker, as the terrain would hurt his feet. I placed Eevee under my coat so she could lay on my shoulder, as it was supposed to be 32 degrees today. I threw up my hood, and wrapped a scarf around us, and set off. Mount Moon. Here I come, I said while walking down Route 3. Mount Moon. After our walk down Route 3, which included fighting trainers that used Pidgey, Ekans, Caterpie, and the rare Jigglypuff, I made it to the Pokemon Center right outside Mt. Moon. I decided to call Mom. She wasn't home yesterday, due to her and Professor Oak going to see Ash at Indigo Plateau. After a few rings on the Pokegear, I heard Mom pick up. "Ah, Naruto honey, how are you?" she said, smiling brightly. "I am good, Mom. I got the boulder badge on my first try," I said, and watched as she squealed and jumped up and down. "I knew you could do it, honey." "Oh, I am so proud. What are your plans now?" she asked, smiling up a storm. "Right now, I am at the Mt. Moon Pokemon Center. My goal today is to cross it into Route 4, and spend the night there if it's late. After that, not sure. Scope the gym out and then train, I guess," I said, thinking on what I will actually do. "That is good, dear. You might run into your brother. He was going to stop by Cerulean, then Pewter, then home. Hopefully you see him," she said, and I smiled demonically. Cuckoo. That means I might run into that mouse from hell. Kuku. Oh, Haim and Stryker will have a field day. Mawahaha. I started laughing like a evil villain, which caused people to look at me weirdly. "Who is Stryker, dear?" Mom asked me. I stopped laughing and realized I haven't told her. "Ah, sorry Mom. Stryker is Doduo's name. I named him that as he is extremely fast and precise," I said, and watched as she smiled. "That is great, dear. I hope he likes it. So what did you do after you won your first gym badge?" she asked, wondering what I did. I chuckled nervously while looking at the ground. "Shit, I am going to get yelled at for wasting money like Ash. I kind of wasted half the prize money on food right after. I was extremely hungry," I said, and watched as Mom smiled at me with a sickly sweet smile, before a demonic-looking figure appeared behind her. "Dear, I raised you and taught you better than that, right? I expect you not to be another Ash," she said while narrowing her eyes at me. I couldn't help but get into the fetal position and nod rapidly while sobbing on the inside. "Good. I hope to hear from you tomorrow. Have a good trip, dear. Bye," Mom said while waving goodbye as she hung up. I shakily pulled myself up, while looking around before sighing. "Arceus, I hate when that side comes out," I said while dusting myself off, before heading out the doors and into Mt. Moon. I wandered around for a few hours, fighting the occasional trainer, wild Pokemon. After getting bored of that, I decided to head down a level and snoop around. As I was walking, I saw a glare, not a Pokemon glare, no. A glare from sunlight hitting an object. I walked forward, and on the ground in a small hole was a peculiar object. I looked like a marble, but it was silver with a weird design going through the middle. The two colors were connected like yin and yang. The left side was blue, and the right side was light blue. I picked it up and looked over it for a few minutes, before pocketing it. Whatever this is, it's rare as hell. Maybe I can get Professor Oak to look at it, I said while continuing on my way through the level. After a few minutes, I found another set of ladders and climbed up and continued on. After another good 45 minutes of walking in this forsaken mountain, I came across a sign that said, "Route 4 entrance." I sighed in happiness. Thank God. I was beginning to think I was going the wrong way, I muttered while walking out of the mountain and into the bright sunset. I closed my eyes for a few minutes, and opened them so they could adjust. I frowned and pulled out the poke nav and checked the time. It read 7:45 p.m. On the screen. I frowned as it was at best another hour and a half walk to the city. I decided to set up camp by Mt. Moon entrance, so I let out Stryker and set Haim on the ground, much to her disappointment. I pulled out a large tent, anime magic inventory, and set it up as the weather lady said it was going to rain. After making sure it was safe and secured, I created a small campfire with broken sticks, and cooked up some hot dogs I got from the convenience store. After eating, and feeding both Stryker and Haim, we went inside the tent. At first it was a tight fit as Stryker was tall, but after having him lay down like he was nesting, there was more room. After covering him with a few quilts, and slipping into my sleeping bag with Haim, I told them both good night, and to wake me up if they sense anything, before letting sleep claim me. Next morning, after waking up due to Haim swaying her tail under my nose, which caused me to sneeze repeatedly, I sat up and stretched, while scratching her ears. "Good morning Haim, Stryker," I said and heard their names in response as I was rubbing my eyes. After getting up and walking out the tent, I checked to see that it was 8:43 a.m. I turned to Haim and Stryker. "Sorry you two, no breakfast until we get to Cerulean Pokemon Center. I want to reserve a room, in case it gets full. It's perfect time of the year to visit her," I said, watching them both nod with understanding. After taking down the tent, and putting it away, I made sure the fire was out, before throwing on my bag and sitting Haim on Stryker's back as I was going to let him walk. "Well, let's roll out," I said and started to walk down Route 4. I looked at the beautiful view as the sun shined on the giant river that flowed through Cerulean. As we were walking, we fought a few wild Spearows and Ekans. Sadly, none of them caught my interest, so I didn't catch any. After about 45 minutes, we came up to the "Welcome to Cerulean" sign. "Huh, I thought it was longer," I said with raised eyebrows, before shrugging and kept on going. After another 5, we finally came into the city and I was amazed at the buildings. They were all big and nice, which signified wealthy people. After walking around taking in the sights and the historical statues, we came across the Pokemon Center. I returned both Stryker and Haim after telling them I wanted them to get a checkup, and walked through the doors. I noticed Nurse Joy sitting at the desk humming a beautiful tune, before smiling at me as I walked in. "Why hello there, how may I help you today?" Nurse Joy said while smiling. "Yes, I would like my Eevee and Doduo to have a checkup please. And if possible, a room for a few days, ma'am," I said while bowing. "Of course, please hand me your Pokeballs and Pokédex, please," she said, and I nodded as I handed them both to her. After a few seconds, she handed me back my Pokédex and card key for room 14. After thanking her and being told the checkup will take a few minutes, I headed to the room and checked it out. It was bigger as it had a house-sized fridge, both washing machine and dryer inside the room. After whistling at the sight of it, I put my bag down and headed out to grab both Haim and Stryker, before scoping out the gym. After grabbing my Pokeballs from Nurse Joy and thanking her, I decided to go check out the river first, in hopes of a new Pokemon. As I walked out of Cerulean and back onto Route 4, I veered off and headed down the banks to the river. As I was walking on the rocky surface, I could hear water splashing and a few human voices, and a Pokemon voice that sounded hurt. I heard the Pokemon voice said, it sounded weak. I crept up on the rocks making sure not to make a sound, and looked around was shocked beyond belief, before I felt cold rage build up. 20 feet away on the ground, a Melodic was laying on the ground while surrounded by an electric net that shocked her every time she moved. Behind it near a truck, were 3 people. They wore gray clothes that had a silver J in the middle of them. I frowned as these were Pokemon hunters. Shit. What do I do? They could either have guns or Pokemon. But if I let them get away, no telling what they do to that Melodic. I thought and decided to creep up some more. Melodic must have heard me because she turned to me before whining while looking at me. I went to the shallowest part, which was right under the bridge before the truck in Miltoic, and crossed. After crossing I kept sneaking up on them, which turned out futile as I heard something moving towards me, so I ducked down to the ground. A blue blur passed me. I looked up to recognize it as a Golbat. I cursed as my cover was blown. I heard, "Golbat, ghoul, ghoul. Ha, Golbat, is someone there? Grab the Pokemon, me and Steve will keep whoever it is busy. Jay will kill us if we let Melodic escape." "Alright, go Gloom," the man known as Steve said. "Shit, Haim, Stryker, come on out," I said while releasing both Haim and Stryker. As they looked around I told them to focus on Golbat and Gloom. "Golbat, Poison Fang, that Eevee. Jay will be happy with it," Mystery Man said. "Gloom, Energy Ball on that ugly ostrich thing," Steve said, which pissed off Stryker, as he squawked its name angrily. Haim, Double Team and Dig. Stryker, Quick Attack and Peck Barrage. Gloom, Go. I yelled and watched as they both used Double Team and went off. "Shit, Golbat, Intercept with Wing Attack," Mystery Man said. "Gloom, use Stun Spore," Steve said, and Gloom released a yellow powder. Shit, Striker. Quick attack away, then Tria attack. I yelled and watched as Striker moved just as the powder came near him. Unfortunately the mystery man's Golbat got affected. Shit, Steve, what the censored are you doing? Mystery man yelled. Shit, sorry, Steve yelled apologizing. Heim, hit them now. Doduo, Steel Wing, now. I yelled and watched as Eevee broke from the ground and hit Golbat in the stomach and watched as it started falling to the ground. It didn't make it as it got hit by Doduo's steel pecs. It immediately fell to the ground, knocked out. Grr, damn it, return, Mystery Man said. Hold them off. I will help Derek finish putting that damn melodic in the truck. Mystery Man said before running off. Okay, Gloom, Solar Beam, Steven said. Hey, Heim, Iron Tail, Striker finish this with quick attack Peck Barrage. I said while running towards Mystery Man and Derek. After getting within arm's reach, I grabbed Mystery Man's arm and snapped it violently. I watched as he howled in pain, as his now broken arm fell limply to the side. Shit, what the censored man, he yelled, before meeting my boot to the face. I watched as he fell to the ground unconscious with a frown. I looked up to Derek and saw him pull out a knife, PFF'd. Really, a knife, please, I had martial arts training fool. I said before kicking him in the knee with great force. I was treated to the howls of pain as his knee gave away as it was dislocated. I instantly picked him up and threw him over my shoulder, and watched as he hit the ground. I instantly hit him in the face hard enough to knock him out. After getting up I looked over to see Heim and Striker taking out Steve's Gloom. I watched as he returned it with panic. Heim, knock him out, I said and watched as Eevee hit him on the back of the neck, and watched as he crumpled to the ground face first. I went over and rubbed both of their heads, while dragging Steve's body over to the truck. I grabbed their Pokeballs and hit the deactivate button, so they couldn't break out and help. I reached into my bag and pulled out zip ties and started to zip tie their hands and ankles together. After finishing it up, I went over to Melodic who was still under the net. As I was getting closer, I saw her stiffen in case I would attack. Shish, I am here to help. I heard your voice when I was hoping to find a Pokemon in the river. Let me get you out of this, and take you to the Pokemon Center. Okay, I asked while giving it a worried-filled look. I watched it nodded its head and said quietly Milu, me before closing her eyes due to exhaustion. I looked at the net, and found the electrical wires and cut them disabling the net's power. I realized I needed to capture it, as it was too large to carry. I sighed and captured it in a Pokeball, hoping it would forgive me. After looking to Heim and Striker and telling them to follow me, we went back to the truck. I opened the back and threw all three men in it before using some of the net after I cut it off, to somewhat tie them to the rails. I closed the doors and locked them, before putting Heim in my hood and jumping in the front seat. I rolled down the window, and told Striker to follow us, as I wouldn't be going fast. I looked around, and found keys in the cup holder. I put them in and turned them praying it was the truck's keys. My prayer was answered as the truck came to life. I sighed and put it in gear and took off slowly. After slowly navigating the woods, I came to a dirt road that showed tracks, what I assumed to be from this truck. I got on it and drove down it slow enough making sure Striker could keep up. After 20 minutes, we came to a crossroad and I looked at the sign and turned towards the way to Cerulean. After 15 minutes, we entered the city and I looked for the police station. After a couple minutes, I found it and parked outside the station and jumped out. As soon as I got out, I was surrounded by 5 Arcanines, who were snarling. You, surrender and put your hands behind your back this instant. Officer Jenny yelled. Oi, wait a minute, I ain't a criminal, look in the back, I tied up the 3 idiots who owned this. I yelled while putting my hands up. I watched as Officer Jenny went over to it and opened it, while the Arcanines were still snarling at me. Down, girls, he is telling the truth. Now tell me, why in the hell were you snooping around what I assumed to be Hunter J's goons? Officer Jenny said while narrowing her eyes at me. It was by pure luck, ma'am. I was hoping to find a Pokemon on the river, so I veered off onto the rocky side of it on Route 4, and I heard a few voices and a Pokemon who sounded like it was in pain. As I crept up on them, I realized it was 3 hunters. They had an electric net over a Melodic. I fought them, as one of their Golbats found me. After beating them, I knocked out the 2 on the right, while my Eevee knocked out the left one. I said, and watched as Officer Jenny sighed at me. Okay kid, but where is Melodic? She said, and I pulled out a Pokeball, and watched as she narrowed her eyes. I had to catch it due to passing out in exhaustion. I planned to let it go after it was healed. I swear, I said while crossing my heart. Okay, but I will need your name kid. Press would love to know who captured Jay's men. Officer Jenny said while pulling out a notebook. Ha, more like, paint a target on my back, I am not naive, Yes, that will do. I thought while smirking. Just a name, no photo, I said while raising my eyebrows. Nope, between you and me, a name will already put a target on you. I won't give them a visual, will I? She said while smirking at me. Hey, I like the way you think, alright, Menma Uzumaki. I said and watched as she nodded while writing it down. Alright, Menma, be careful, I need to process these buffoons. If you need anything, come by. Officer Jenny said before she had the Arcanines lift them and bring them inside the station. I shrugged and ran towards the Pokemon Center, lost in thought. Hope that works. I will be screwed if Jay comes after me. I should keep this from Mom, she might gut me like a quillfish. I shook at the thought, and ran into the center. Nurse Joy, I found an injured Pokemon. Please heal it, I said before giving her the Pokeball. I watched as she and Chansey rushed into the medical room. I sat down on a couch and must have dozed off. As I blacked out, until I was woken up a few hours later. Time skip. 2 hours. I was woken up due to someone shaking me. I opened my eyes and saw Chansey looking at me with a smile. Chansey, Chan, she said while holding some tea. Aha, thanks Chansey. Is Melodic okay? I said while sipping tea. I saw Chansey nod her head with a frown. That frown suggests it will be a while, won't it? I said and sighed as she nodded her head sadly. I see, please let me know, okay? I said and got a hug from Chansey before she nodded and headed back to work. I stood up and stretched, and looked at the clock. 4:23 p.m. It read, might as well go check out the gym. I said while throwing on my hoodie. And walked out the door while telling Chansey as she came through I was going to check out the gym. She just nodded at me before going back to Nurse Joy. After walking through the town for a bit, I finally found the gym. I think. What kind of gym? Has a giant dugong on a sign. Tacky. Much, I said while walking in the doors. I was greeted by a sight that made me smile evilly. Because in front of me was a small yellow mouse Pokemon known as Pikachu. Not just any Pikachu. I know this little demon. Cuckoo. Why hello there Pikachu, I said as it jumped and looked at me with wide eyes. Pika, it said while jumping at me. Oi, demon, get off, I said while trying to pry it off me. Pika, hee, it said while shaking its head no. Oi, this isn't a democracy, it's a dictatorship. Get off before I throw you into a pool, I said trying to pry it off again. Pikachu, where you go buddy, a voice yelled down the hall. Well, shit, you can stay there, demon mouse. Let's go say hi to Ash, I said sighing, as Pikachu rubbed its cheek against me. Cha, it said nodding happily. Thank God Haim isn't out, she would flip, I said quietly. After walking down the hall, I came across a sight that I instantly saved to my mind. Because in the pool were 6 beautiful women in swimsuits. Dear Arceus, save me, I thought while shaking my head. I watched as Pikachu jumped down and ran towards my idiot brother, who was sitting on side of the pool, besides a guy. Why does Forrest remind me of him? I thought with a frown. Pika, I heard the demon mouse say to my brother. Oh, I will get my revenge. What is it Pikachu? Ash said while looking at Pikachu who was pointing at me. Who is Naruto? Hey, I rolled my eyes as Ash started waving at me, which caused everyone to look at me. Ash, who is this? The only other guy in the room asked my brother. My brother. Adopted of course, Ash said while I just chuckled. Makes sense, he is extremely handsome unlike you. A female voice in the pool said, which caused Ash to frown and blush. It's nice to meet you all. The name is Naruto Ketchum. The better looking, younger, and smarter of the two of us. I said with a smirk, that caused the girls to blush. I see. My name is Brock, former leader of Pewter Gym. The man known as Brock said. Really? I just came from there, fought a kid named Forrest. I said, which caused Brock to choke on his drink and look at me. Really? How was he? I heard he was taking over. But I figured he was still too young. Brock said with a worried frown. Was a tough fight. Rhyhorn threw me for a loop as it knew Shockwave. Graveler was easier than the two. I said, which caused Brock to laugh. Yeah, Rhyhorn was his starter. Graveler was never a battler, he liked help moving stuff in the gym. Brock said while smiling. Naruto, I am surprised you started. I figured you would wait for Johto to open up. Ash said with raised eyebrows. Unlike you idiot, I want to savor my time. I don't plan to become a master or champion. So I can go slow. I said, which caused raised eyebrow from around the room. Oh, if you don't mind me asking, what do you want to be? Ash is damn determined to be a master. A girl with short orange hair said. My goal, probably to become a gym leader. It would be nice to give something back to Pallet. Would be nice for the young kids of Pallet and Viridian, while I focus on either a gardening business with our mom, becoming a breeder, or a teacher. Or maybe all three. Who knows yet? The only thing set in stone is being a gym leader. I said, which caused the ladies, and Brock to smile at me. Gym I think that's a nice goal. I am planning to become a breeder myself. If I may ask, what Pokemon do you have at the moment? Brock asked me. I don't mind. I have a Eevee, named Heim. A Doduo named Striker. For now, I said and got a whistle from Brock. A Eevee, not bad, but a Doduo, no wonder you had a time at Pewter. How did you find it? Brock asked. I told them how I found it in Viridian Forest while it was raining and stuck in a trap. I then told them how I let it go, but it followed me anyway, and how it helped me catch a Oddish for our mom. I forgot to catch a Pokemon for mom. She is going to kill me. Ash said while gulping in fear. No shit, I got yelled at yesterday outside MT. Moon in the center for admitting I wasted half the prize money from Pewter Gym on food. It was like Darkrai himself was here. I said while shaking. I know, right? She is scary when she becomes like that. Brock and Misty knows. They saw her at Indigo. Ash said while shaking. I saw Brock pale in fear, and the short orange hair girl I guess named Misty, shake also. How did that go anyway? I was going to show up. No wait, I lie. I didn't care, since we both said it would be pointless. I said while rolling my eyes and arms like come on, out with it. I got in top 16. I have a Charizard that won't listen to me. He was a great Charmander, then a fiery Charmeleon, but now a ass of a Zard. Ash said with a sigh. If it is anything like that damn demon mouse. You will get to it eventually. Cuckoo, I am still planning revenge on you, Pikachu. I said sickly sweet, which caused Pikachu to hide in fear. Come on Naruto, he only shocked you twice. Ash said trying to protect his little buddy. Only twice thanks to that mouse. Leaf almost kidnapped me and tied to her bed. It is only because the shock hit her, that I wasn't pretty much violated. I said while shivering even more. I forgot about that. Yeah, Leaf is obsessed with you. Or was at least, I think she and Gary are an item now. Something about, you never noticing her. Ash said while thinking. I fell to the ground while crying tears of happiness. I looked to the sky and started screaming. Finally free. Thank you Arceus. Thank you, I said while blowing kisses up to the sky. I see. Well, let me introduce you to everyone. You know Brock, Misty. The other 5 are Lily, Daisy, Violet, Conan, and Sakura. Girls, this is Naruto. Ash said. I turned to them and smiled as I waved. I watched as Lily, Daisy, Violet, and Conan smile at me seductively and Sakura blushed while smiling. It is nice to meet you girls. I hope my idiot of a brother isn't bothering you. I said while sighing, which caused Ash to huff and turn away. Anyway, I should get going. I only wanted to scope out the gym before I battled. I need to get back to the center, and take a nap. I hope to see you guys and ladies soon. Have a great evening, I said while waving goodbye, and started walking down the hall and out the doors. After entering the center, Chansey came up to me and pulled me towards the back room, and to a pool they use for water Pokemon. As I entered I saw Nurse Joy, who was frowning at the Pokemon in front of her, as it was lashing out at the other nurses trying to get close to it. Ah, Naruto. Thank Arceus you are here. Melodic won't let anyone get close to her. I was hoping if you could try getting near her, she said while I raised me eyebrows at her. Huh, makes sense. All right, I'll try, I said, and I jumped into the pool and waited near her. I watched as she quit lashing out, and looked at me curiously. I guess she remembered me, as she perked up an eye smiled at me. Mio, cheek Mio, she said as she happily swam to me and coiled around my body. I laughed as I felt her lay her head on my shoulders and lick me with her tongue. He, hey girl, I said while rubbing her head. I smiled as I saw her happily purr while leaning in. I need you to let them heal you, okay? Faster you heal, the faster you can go back out into the waters and go back to living your life, I said, and watched as she nodded sadly, before dragging me with her to the nurses. After having her get the shots and stuff she needed, I sat by her until she fell asleep while frowning. Nurse Joy, I don't think she will last in the wild again. I think that attack hurt her emotionally, as well as physically, I said, frowning at Melodic's sleeping form. Yes, I fear she won't be the same for a long time. Best bet would have her sent to a professor's lab to be looked after, but other than you, she doesn't let anyone close, Nurse Joy said while looking over Melodic's sleeping form. Don't worry, I will ask her in the morning if she wants to come with me. I know she won't want to fight for a long while, which is fine with me. I will just spend time with her in hopes of her returning to her former self. Anyway, good night Nurse Joy. Melodic, I said before leaning down and kissing Melodic on the head, and smiled as she sighed. Yes, good night Naruto, and see you in the morning, Nurse Joy said before leaving after me and walking into her own sleep quarters. I returned to my room and took a long shower while thinking of ways to help Melodic. I let out both Striker and Heim, and told them both the situation. After explaining it to them, they were more than willing to help her out. I rubbed both of their heads, before telling them we shall see in the morning, and wish them a good night. As I laid down I felt Heim jump on the bed, and instead of sleeping on my chest, she curled up beside me neck after licking me on the cheek. Night Heim, Striker, I said while yawning. Vui, do. I fell asleep thinking don't worry Melodic, I will help you in any way I can. Thanks.